Hi guys, and welcome to the War Story podcast. Very short introduction. Today, usual score. If you enjoy the podcast, if you find something valuable in it, if you thought it was a good listen with good bits, then please tell a friend. It's all we ask. We rely on you to spread the word on the podcast. I suppose I might as well get a plug in for my new books while I'm here as well. I've got new books out if you want to learn about them. There's a link down in the show notes. Our guest today, I'm going to jump straight into it because he is on the line with me right now. His name is Stuart Smalldridge, former Royal Marine Commando. And what's really interesting is, and I guess this is going to happen the more and more that we do these podcasts, is that we actually have some, I don't know what the word would be, connectivity today between certain episodes. Stu ties in with a couple of other guests that we've had on. It's kind of interesting, building out that picture of ops in Afghanistan and so forth. But enough from me. Stu, welcome to the podcast, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, all good. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
You're welcome. You're welcome, mate. We've kind of flirted with the idea for a while, haven't we, since we had Ben on. So just to give people an idea of who we're talking about there, you served in Ben's section in the Commandos. And you also came across Scott Ryder, the Aussie,
very briefly,
Special Forces fella. So for those of you who remember, Scott was telling a story about when he was going out on a combined op, and those guys were getting treated to all the Gucci SF side of camp, and I think you lot were all kind of bashed up along the runway or something like that, weren't you?
Yeah, we're a bunch of like feral people up against the Hesco Bastion, kept away from the rest of the camp.
So there we go,
Yeah,
a couple of little kind of connection points. So just tell us a little bit about where you're from, mate, and what kind of drew you towards the military, but also the Royal Marines in particular.
Yeah, so I grew up in like the 90s, which is probably the best era to grow up in, I'd say. So playing out with mates, getting up to mischief, all legal. I won't implicate myself on this one. But I grew up in a little town called Brentwood in Essex, which is right on the sort of M25 border. I'd say it's quite a posh town, except the only way is Essex kind of ruined the reputation a little bit. But no, I had quite a good standard upbringing, really. It was very middle class, both parents around, cats, dog, older sister, 1 or 2 holidays a year. So it was quite no childhood trauma or anything like that. So yeah, no, it was all right. I grew up, plenty of mates at school. Kind of a bit of an in-betweener, mix between like the geeks and the cool kids. I'll put quotation marks there. Wasn't bullied. Pretty normal childhood, really.
Right, get him off the podcast. He's got no trauma. Your sister's gonna be after you as well now for listing the cats and the dogs before.
Yeah.
So where was it then? The spark for the military? Where did that come from?
I've always had it. So my dad, he was a Royal Marine. He did 4 years he joined up when he was 16 in 72. So he did 4 years. His trade was landing craft. So he was based on HMS Intrepid, which is like a specialised landing craft ship. But he didn't really have too many stories from it. It was all just went on the beach with the landing craft, set up a barbecue, had a good time, swimming, that good stuff. So he didn't deploy anywhere operationally. He might have gone to Cyprus at one point, but nothing like major. I grew up with like stealing his combat jacket from the wardrobe, running around the woods in it, just massively oversized for me. I was like climbing the trees, setting up my own little ambushes on the tracks, civvies walking by. Getting the old gun sticks. But I always had an interest. I used to watch like the usual classics like Bridge Too Far, Battle of Britain, all the war films when I was younger. Then in the year 2000, I think it was like 60th anniversary, Battle of Britain. So I took a big interest in World War II from that because it was all on the news, interviews all the veterans, and used to sit there making the model planes, and had a few mates that are into all that as well. Grew up watching, I know it's been said quite a lot in a recent podcast, Black Hawk Down. We were soldiers. So me and my mate, we used to hang around, he used to work in a corner shop, so we'd sit in there just constantly watching those films. It's very similar to what you said in previous podcast about how you got the warrior mindset. Like some people watch those films which are very anti-war, when you look at them now. But at the time, I was more like, I want some of that. I want to be part of that. I want to get involved in some of the fights. And, you know, everyone's, as you know, the previous podcast, everyone wants to be the hero and do all that Gucci stuff. So, yeah, grew up watching those. So Band of Brothers came out. I blitzed through that. Me and my mates used to sneak around at night around these building sites, you know, dodging all security guards, pretending they're like German sentries and all that kind of stuff. Nothing too major. Just climbing around on scaffolding and treating it like a little assault course, really. Obviously 9/11 happened. I was at school at the time. Particularly remember being at school, hearing a plane has hit a tower. At the time, I thought it was like a little Cessna type thing. I thought, what a dickhead who does that? Got home from school, put the news on, and then watched it all live. And then I remember being on the phone to my friend at the time, Lee. He had an interest in joining the army at the time. So we were like, oh, I wonder if there's going to be a war from this. Obviously, little did we know. So yeah, I remember watching on the news all the Objecana stuff, the Marines going up into the mountains, and again thinking, yeah, I'd really want some of that. That looks Gucci. Obviously, they're hanging out their arse carrying all that kit, but you know, I don't know that at the time. So Iraq War kicked off. I remember watching all the Baghdad getting smashed, all the trace of fire going up, Marines landing by helicopter, all the landing craft on Qazar. Again, I started at that point feeling almost left out. So how old would I have been? Maybe 14, 15 at the time. So still too young to properly join up. But yeah, getting the feeling that I might miss out on whatever is kicking off now. So yeah, took an interest in all that. Left school. Did 2 years college, doing a public service course, which, looking back, nothing academic. It's just anyone that wants to join police, fire service, military. I think I was the only one in my class that actually wanted to join the military. Get the usual marks when you say you want to join the Royal Marines. You get the usual, you're not going to make that. You think, right, well, I'll show you. So yeah, it was quite handy. So yeah, 2 year course. We did a look at life session down at Lympstone at the Commando Training Centre. We did about 4 or 5 days down there. So that was pretty good. It was they more or less ran through what you do on selection anyway, getting beasts on the bottom field, and we press up, sit ups, went out like Woodbury Common, played around with rifles. So again, that sort of piqued my interest a bit. So yeah, as soon as college finished, I then decided, it might have been during college actually, I think I started applying then near the end of it. So I went down to Chelmsford Careers Office. So it's predominantly like Royal Navy Marines that are there. So there was luckily a Royal Marine in there, so I wasn't going to get drafted off to the army or anything. I was going to change my mind. So I was pretty dead set on all doing it then. So yeah, did an interview. They said basically come back in 6 months because basically need a bit more life experience really. So go get a job, come back. So I went, nothing serious, but like paintball marshal for 6 months. So I was again shot in the groin most of the time with paintballs. So pretty shit. Went back. They said, yeah, come on, do your, the pre-joining fitness test, just 1.5 miles on the treadmill. Actually failed that at first. I've just missed out, got right to the end, and I literally seconds over on the time. So they said, come back in a month or two. Went back, smashed the gym, back in Brentwood still. Went back, smashed the test, and then got loaded on to the PRMC, which is the Potential Royal Marines course. I think it might be a different name now, but at the time, that's what it was. So that was December 2005, I did that. And then, I think I underestimated it a little bit. So I read up all about all the fitness, read the pamphlet, read various books on it, told one of my trainers at the gym what I wanted to do, so he gave me like a fitness thing. But yeah, by the time I got to Lympstone for that, it was very full on. But yeah, reached all the timings you meant to do. So I think sit ups, 8, you got to do like 80, press up 60, pull ups might have been 3 or 5. You do your 3 mile run, you got 22 minutes to do that in. So you do it first 1.5 miles as a squad, run up to the end of the lane, then it's every man for himself back. So past that, then they give you a bit of a beasting down on the bottom field at Lympstone, which is just maybe about 2 hours long, and all it is more of a determination test. So they'll just absolutely hammer you for 2 hours, and as long as you're there at the end of it, you've passed that. But at the time, you see a lot of people getting up, walking off because might be injured or just couldn't hack it. And it sounds selfish to say, but at the time, you are quite satisfied. You feel, oh, good. Some people are gone. I'm still here. So it gives you a little bit of a confidence boost. So yeah, I did all that. Didn't really have any issues on that. Got to the end of it. I think usually they're meant to separate you. So go, right, call your name, go into this room, this name, go into that room. One room will get told you failed, one room will get told you passed. But on this one, it was just anyone left in this room, you've passed. So like, well done. But because it was the last one of the year, right before Christmas leave, I think they were just like, if you're here, brilliant. We'll see you in a couple of weeks or months to start training. So to signify you've passed, you go down to stores, you get given issued boots, plus the socks, and it's just told to go home, break them in, and wait for a training date. So yeah, that was December, and then commenced training February 27th, 2006, and that date.
Before we get into the date, mate. Sorry, you were saying the date will come back into it. That one, though.
Yeah. So February 27th.
So, just a couple before we talk about training. What was your parents' reaction to you to going into the military and the Royal Marines specifically?
Yeah, they were supportive. If they had any qualms about doing it or anything like that, they never told me. There was no like, oh, I don't think you're going to make it or anything like that. They were like, if that's what you want to do, go for it. So, all my dad's advice, that was all from the 70s, so most of it was outdated at that point, but most things still remain the same. Like the commando tests are exactly the same as what you did back then. So now I was just told to basically train and do your best, really. And if you really want it, go for it.
And what were you expecting to get as a career in the Royal Marines? Like, were you going in thinking this is going to be me for life, or you wanted to get a taste of war? Like, what were you wanting to get out of it?
It's more the war side of it, really, because obviously still, by 2005, 2006, it was still Afghan kind of petered off at that point. You didn't really hear much about it. It was all Iraq in the news. So you kind of join knowing that, chances are you're going to go somewhere at the time. And I just wanted to experience combat. And with the Royal Marines, you kind of know that usually they are heavily involved in most operations. So that was another little pushing point towards that. And I think everyone kind of has their own idea that if you're going to go to war, you do want to kind of go with the best, what you perceive as the best group of men. Everyone wants to be highly motivated, fit, and actually up for it. You don't want to be with some, I'm not going to slag any other units off or any regiments off, but you don't want to be with people that are kind of half-assed. So that was a big motivator.
And you mentioned that you got into World War II as well. It's like, is that something that you were conscious of going for? Like, you knew the history of the Royal Marines and everything before you really got there?
Yeah, massively. So obviously commandos are formed during World War II, and you kind of hear all the stories, and they're heavily involved in most operations and doing some absolutely mental stuff like the old Saint Nazaire raid and other little commando raids they did. So yeah, you kind of want to join that legacy and be proud of it, earn the Green Beret, because it does stand out. The old commando daggers and all that good stuff. So you want to, just carry on that lineage, really, and sort of do them all proud.
So how did you find the training? Is there any particular bits that you found exceptionally hard or that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, so it's one of those shocker captures. As soon as you get into training, you've got the first 2 weeks of foundation, and it's very Billy Basic, and then you're getting shown by a corporal how to wash your dick and your balls and all that kind of stuff. Some people just don't know how to do it because everyone's come from various backgrounds and lifestyles. You've got younger people than me. I mean, I joined at 19, which isn't a bad age to join, really. You got some like 16-year-olds. I think the highest one we had in training was like 32. So he was right on the threshold. He did actually pass out as well. It's an original, that one. Must be old as fuck now, though. He was missing some teeth even when he was in training. So, it was initial couple of weeks are hard. Getting into routine. And then, obviously, fitness-wise, definitely didn't prepare as much as I should have. So I struggled a little bit initially on that. But, most of the main thing for training me was just injuries. I was picking up, I think I got to about week 9 and then picked up shin splints. So you go into, once you get an injury in training, you go into what's called Hunter Company. And that's split into 2 troops. You've got Hunter 1, Hunter 2. Hunter 1 is your initial injury. You'll there get rehab, you get looked at, see if it's worth you carrying on training. Some people get injuries that's just not worth the time and they get rid of you. I'm medically discharged. But generally look at you, think, right, okay, we can work on you. If you've got like a lower leg lower limb injury, you'll then do like upper body phys in the gym every day, and vice versa. If you've got lower leg, you do upper body or lower body, that kind of stuff. So I had shin splints, and they attributed it to I had some of the flattest feet I've ever seen. So I was treated like a little freak show by the PTIs. I had to sit there on the physio bed, feet out, and they were just coming over examining it, and they were actually calling other PTIs over to just stare at my feet. And all for free as well, wasn't charging them or anything, like you would these days. I was in there for a little bit, and to get out of Hunter 1, you have to do a 4-mile speed march, depending on what week of training you're at. You have to do it with kit or without, but as long as you sort of pass it in the 40 minutes, then you can progress onto Hunter 2. So that just shows that it's more than just getting your fitness back up probably. Now your injury's over and done with. You go on exercise. I remember the Senior Command course needed more bods to fill in the sections, so they used us lads from Hunter 2. Went out for 2 weeks with a bunch of hairy ass corporals. I got stuck in a section full of mountain leaders, which as a recruit terrifies you, given their reputation. They're all good blokes though. They'll come back into the story later on. But you do. I think you go into once you finish in Hunter, you go back to a troop probably knowing more than you did when you left, because you get more practice on like navigation, map reading. I remember we got trained up on the pistols, which you don't do in mainstream training, so that was like an additional extra we got. And they tend to put you back into a troop that you've left. So as you left at week 9, you get put back into week 9, maybe sometimes week 7, depending on if you're ready to go in or not. So that was my first injury. Went back into a troop, progressed a little bit more, and then ended up with stress fracture on my foot. Again, I think it was just the way that the feet are so flat. They just, I don't know the physiology of it, but it just affects all your lower limbs. So they gave me orthodontic. I had to go to an orthodontic. Had the like special insoles, which I didn't really use that much because when you put them in the boots, it just pinches the crap out of your feet and it just absolutely kills you and gives you more blisters than anything. But I was sort of in and out Hunter. So yeah, so like shin splints, stress fracture. I think I had 2 of them, 1 on each foot. Finally got back into troop again prior to near the end of training, maybe week 24, 25 out of the 32 weeks. Went down to Dartmoor where we did the vertical assault training. So obviously being Marines, we get taught, cliff assault, how to abseil, climb them. And then there's a special technique you do where you just get basically attached to a rope on a pulley system. Lads are at the top, they pull it. You're meant to run up the side of the cliff. And then you're meant to time it just right when you get to the top, that you put your feet on the edge and then you kind of pivot over the top. I completely misjudged it, smacked my knee on the top, got dragged along the floor. So, cracked on with the final exercise, which commenced the week after. But the first yomp got pulled off because I was just absolutely hanging out my arse with the knee. So that was the final injury. Went back and hunt again, and it is demoralising. I remember early on in training, I did put my hand up. I wanted to leave because I just had enough. It was just getting too much. But there was a guy there, Major Mattin. So anyone from that time would probably remember him. He was Major ML, but one of the nicest ones you'll ever meet. He just sat me down in the office, convinced me to stay. I owe quite a lot to him, really.
What's the kind of thing? What's the kind of things that he said to you to kind of convince you to stay?
Oh, just usual, like that you'd regret leaving, and it's you'll be joining if you make it. You'll be joining one of the best brotherhoods you can, and an elite force, all the kind of stuff you want to hear, really. That inspires you. But he was just a really nice officer. He was very well spoken. Massive moustache on him though, like proper 80s tash. And he was a good bloke. Like I said, I owe quite a lot to him, really. So yeah, I'm glad he convinced me to stay and I wasn't just rash and was like, no, I'm done. So I definitely would have regretted it. That was I said the knee injury was the last one. Went back into a troop for final exercise. So redid the cliff assault stuff. I didn't mess up on that one this time. You do amphibious training after that, and then go straight on your final exercise, which is fine. That's like a week long, and then you do your 2-week live firing package after that. Then comes up to the commando tests. So, obviously, anyone who doesn't know, you got 4 commando tests you got to pass. They haven't really changed much since a lot of them does have their history from World War II. So prior to starting commando training, you do your 6-mile speed march. Once you pass that, you can ditch your beret and you get given the cap comforter, which commandos used to wear in the Second World War as well. But yeah, no, commando test-wise, you do the first one on Saturday. That's the endurance course. So that's about 2.5 miles cross-country up at Woodbury Common. And it's the one where you see on the adverts with like the underwater tunnel. However, it's not quite like the adverts where you get stuck in the middle and drowning. It's like the actual underwater tunnel is probably about 6 or 7 foot. You get pushed and pulled through it. It's still honking because you're underwater with all your kit on. But yeah, so you do 2.5 miles of that. You got other tunnels that are sort of half submerged. I think the longest one you do is about 30 foot long. Which I had to go through. That was gipping. That was everyone else was going through like the easy one. I ended up in the half the size one. Yeah, 2.5 miles. Then you got 4 mile run back to camp, which isn't too bad. It's all mostly downhill anyway. And then when you get back to camp, you then go straight onto the firing range, 25 meter range. You fire your rifle. You got to hit 6 out of 10 on target. So again, it's during all that underwater stuff and tunnels, you've got to keep your rifle clean and ready to fire basically. So you got 73 minutes to do that in. Past that one. Next commando test on the Monday is 9 mile speed march. Pretty much exactly what it says, 9 miles. And you got 90 minutes to do that in. Again, this is the kit you carry. It's just webbing, 22 pounds and a rifle. So that was the one I was most worried about with speed march because I've got generally quite a long running pace. Yet you got to kind of stick as a troop and take short paces, otherwise you're clipping the heels in front of you. So that was the one I was most worried about. But yeah, we smashed that one. Then the next day you do Tarzan assault course. That's essentially 2 assault courses in one, where you start high on we call it a death slide. So you climb the tower, throw yourself down it along a rope, and you're sliding down it. And then the timer starts at that point, and then you do like the high obstacle course, swinging through ropes and beams and all that. Hopefully not falling off. Then you run about 200 meters down to the next assault course. Do that. You do like a half regain where you roll under the rope, but you don't lower yourself fully, but you just roll under it, roll back on top of it again, which some people do struggle with. Then you run back. You do you climb a 30-foot wall. It's got a rope hanging down it, but you climb at the top of that. Jump down, shout your name, timer ends. So that's you got 13 minutes to do that in, and I still remember I got 10 minutes 54 on that. So pretty decent timing. You finish that, and then you got the 30 miler, which is the big one. So that is like literally the final test that you do in training, and that's the one where as long as you get to the end of it and you've passed all your other tests, you get your green beret, commando flashes, and yeah, you're pretty much passing out at that point. There's nothing in training that prepares you for that. It's literally 30 miles on Dartmoor. You start off early in the morning, you get put into 3 groups. You start at 10-minute intervals. So I was in the middle group. And it's the first couple of miles of honking because it's all uphill at that point, and you're on like a concrete road, so your legs haven't warmed up, your legs are killing you. But the way 30 miler works is you're carrying on this one as well, you're carrying 40 pounds. So you got webbing, day sack, and your rifle. So every 6 miles you'll get a checkpoint, and it's basically a minute or 2 just to sort your boots out, change your water. You get given that really honking green lime juice stuff to down, bananas, pasties, which luckily aren't frozen like you usually get. So yeah, it's just every 6 miles. There's a bit called the roller coaster, just goes uphill, downhill, and anyone who's been to Dartmoor knows what it's like there. It's just honking, it's just full of tours. You do it all year round anyway. Luckily mine comes back to that date I said earlier, so February 27th as well. So I did my 30 miler exactly 2 years to the day that I joined the training. So with all the injuries I had, 2 years from starting to essentially finishing, which yeah, so it's quite a big day for me. I really also want to get the hell out of there because 2 years of limb sitting is grim. And all that you don't. So we used to have recruits used to be called.
Sorry, mate. What's the usual length of the course then? Because you probably did about 3 times the usual length of the course. Is it something like that?
Yeah. So the actual training itself, if you take all the leave out, is 32 weeks. But yeah, some people get injuries. You might get 1 injury or get back troops, so you go back like 2 weeks. So if you pass out as an original for 32 weeks, you might be looking at a couple of weeks or a few months longer if you get an injury or back squadded for any reason. But I want the longest recruit. There were some people there that have been longer, and they get the nickname the Nod Fibre. And the reason it's called Nod is because we're always nodding off, so that is just what we're called. All the train team will always just shout Nod or call you a recruit. But yeah, that's not. It might sound like a cool name, but it's not the one you want, because there are some people that have been there like 2.5. I think the one guy was pushing almost 3 years, and I said I think you might as well just give him a pension and fuck him off at that point. So Yeah, I did not.
How does that work as well? Like, if you've got, say, a certain amount of years on your engagement, and you've done 3 years in training, would you just go? How long was your engagement for?
I think you do. I think it is about 4 years. So it does. Right. Yeah, your time in training does count towards it still. So you could.
Right, so he could just come out to a year.
Yeah, pretty much. He could basically come out, put his chit in, do the last year, and bugger off. So as I was saying, I did. Yeah, got 30 miler to the day. So I was like, I need to pass this and get out of here because it's just demoralising. But it was fine. Helped a few lads out. There's one lad who's struggling up a hill. Remember pushing him up there. Another lad who didn't really get on with him, but he was struggling in the back. But you're always just trying to get everyone through it, aren't you, and actually work together as a team. So I stayed back with him for a little bit till the corporal sort of clocked on, came back, and it was like, Smalldridge, you all right? I went, yeah. He went, right, get to fucking front then. I was like, right, okay. So I went sprinting off. It's only really the last 6 miles that I struggled because your body kind of shuts down at that point. It kind of knows you're near the end, but your mind is telling you now you've got 6 miles left. And I remember during that 6 miles, I was smashing out. I remember the Lucasade sweets used to get little packets of them. I was actually smashing 2 packets of them, which probably isn't healthy for you, but it kind of helped. So, I remember we were going up and down hills. I was thinking, right, I know the finishing line is a bridge, but every hill we got to the top, I was like, I'm not seeing any bloody bridges around here. But you knew it was somewhere around there. But we got there anyway, and passed over in time. So you get 8 hours to do the 30 miler in. Officers have like 7 hours to do it, which is pretty honking as well for them. But yeah, we got in. There were some lads that had been in Hunter Troop as well, injured. They were in tears, crying, and all emotional about it. I just kind of went over to the grass and laid down because I was actually shattered. But my whole body just seized up. So when the third syndicate came in, when it was time to get up and clap them in, someone had to kind of lift me up like a flat board. So straight up I went. And you'll just fall in. You get issued your green beret, handshake from the officers, giving you commando flashes, and pretty much that's it. Back on the coach. And then you do like a week. After that, you do like a week of drill, basically, ready for your pass out parade. So 30 miles on a Wednesday, and then your pass out parade will be the following Friday. But at this point, you're known as the King Squad, which is like the most senior squad in training. I think there's some history about it. I can't remember which king it was. I probably should know this. That he went down to the training and was like, right, I'm impressed with this lot. The highest squad will be known as King Squad from now on. But yeah, you're bowling it around camp because you're like literally the dog's bollocks at that point. You get a special bit in the galley, just reserved especially for you, so you can look at all the other recruits in training. You're sort of looking down at them at that point. Just bowling it around. You do your pass out parade on the Friday, so you go in. Your families come down. You do your the beret presentation. It was at the time called a Savile room after Jimmy Savile, which very swiftly got changed. Thank God. So beret presentation. Then you go out on the drill square. Do your you got your fancy music. I think at the time it was Last of the Mohicans, so the band was playing that. You do your drill display, and technically you're not officially a Royal Marine until you hear the order, Royal Marines to your duties, quick march. As soon as you get that order, that's the end of the ceremony, and that is you officially then a Royal Marines Commando. You just march off, meet your family, and disperse and go back home. But prior to that, you put in your what unit you want to go to, basically. So at that time, so like I said, February 2008, I knew the next tour of Afghan was going to have 4-2 Commando and 4-5 Commando. So my first choice was 4-2. Didn't really want to go 4-5. I put it as my second choice anyway. And then luckily I got my first choice of 4-2. But prior to that, they decided that any troop passing out of training has to go to Leconfield first to do the driving course. So anyone that hasn't got a driving license will then got fully taught up on the, get your driving license and then do your HGV course. All of us that had a license already just went straight to HGV because they wanted everyone deploying to Afghan to be able to drive any vehicle, basically, if needed. So that was a new policy. So we spent a couple of weeks up at Leconfield, nothing too major. A few little funny stories from there. We were completely forbidden from the female accommodation, which had so many cameras around it, but 2 lads got caught, left to crawl in one night across the field to get to it. And I know the guard room were watching until they got right to the door and they just jumped them. So they got dragged off. And we had another fat army sergeant. He was marching us down to the hangars one morning, but because we weren't in step, he was just like, right, we're going to run then. And we were like, all right then. We just sprang off and left him behind so he couldn't keep up. But yeah, no, it's just a few weeks there. It's pretty Billy Basic, really. And then had a bit of milk again, and then.
Just got a couple of questions on the training there, maybe before we go any further. You kind of mentioned a couple like the major and stuff. What's the relationship like between your your staff instructors and yourself? So are they doing everything they can to help you get through the training, or is it one of the ones where they're quite harsh to you and they're trying to make people fall out? What's that relationship like?
It's a bit of both, really. I mean, I went for a few training troops, so I had a mixed bag, really. There were, you get the odd corporal that just has a chip on their shoulder, hates everyone, doesn't like being there. The training team, generally, one troop I was in, they did allow, especially in phase 2 of training, because they knew we were fully getting trained up, we were going to deploy somewhere on operations. They wanted us to be ready fully, so they would allow us to use certain kit within reason that you would use on operations. So rather than the old Hexy cookers, which it's funny, you don't really use them on ops anyway, especially like in that day and age. So they allowed us to use jet boils, which made admin a lot easier. But it was like a privilege, so they would take it away if we were, abusing that. But yeah, most of the training teams had operational experience, so they had like various Northern Islands, Sierra Leone as well was one back in the day, the Iraq invasion, the Afghan invasion. So they had a lot of experience to share as well. There was no qualms about it. Most of them had been in combat, so they would be quite honest what to expect. And there's always the old adage as well that no matter how hard training is, being on operations for real is a lot harder. You're carrying a lot more kit, and there's no safety wagon following you to take you out of it. So they knew as well that they didn't want you to go into a unit, be an absolute shitbag, and then they're like, well, who's your corporal? Who passed you out? Because it looks bad on them as well. So yeah, there was most of them did like encourage you as well, but if you are crap, they'll get rid of you pretty quickly.
And also, I'd love to know a bit more about like what it meant to you and to your dad when you passed out. Well, obviously, with him having been himself a Royal Marine.
Yeah, no, it meant the world to me because I didn't. Again, after 30 miles, I didn't really show it. I was knackered, and there was no emotions there. I was just kind of just relieved after 2 years it was done. So I was just really proud to wear that green beret. My dad came down to the pass out parade. He had green lid as well. So we had a couple of nice pictures of us both with that. It's just proud to kind of be following his footsteps. So again, like the Commando test I just passed, it's the same ones he's passed back in his days. So yeah, there's kind of that, you feel a little bit closer, I suppose, in terms that you've both been through something like that. And and then passed out.
So after Leckensfield then, mate, you get to 4-2 and it's all full swing, ready to go out to Afghan on Herrick 9, was it?
Yeah, so Herrick 9. So yeah, got to 4-2. It was, I arrived there on a really drizzly, miserable night. So I just got carted off to like a temporary accommodation, just got told to report in the morning. Reported, and they kind of just dish out all the companies like willy-nilly, really. So it's just, all right, you're off to K Company, you're off to J Company. I was like, right, off to L Company with you. So that's where I ended up, Lima Company. But yeah, when I joined them, because pre-deployment training was in full effect at that point, you didn't really meet everyone at the stage because you got people off on courses going off to do different things. I didn't meet my section commander, Chris, for quite a while. I think it was not till we did like a live firing package up in Otterburn. But yeah, when I got to Lima Company, there were a few faces. Having been in Hunter, there's quite a few faces I recognised from Hunter Troop. So that was eased it off a little bit, where you can kind of slot in with them and find out what the hell's going on. But I went to my accommodation, completely empty. Everyone else was out doing stuff. When they came back, there was no like hellos, greetings, because you kind of understand. Yeah, you're gonna get the old Sprock routine, and not everyone's that friendly at first. And the only time that anyone spoke to you really was like T2, get the wets on kind of thing. Which you kind of, you take on the chin because you're going to get it. And any jobs that need doing, you volunteer straight away. That goes on for a little while. So it's just a case of keeping your mouth shut and getting on with it. But no, it was fine. No, it was just did various exercises and the old pre-deployment training. Corporals are fine. So when I got put into 8 Troop Lima Company, and the sergeant for that was actually one of the sergeants from the senior command course that I ended up with from Hunter Troop. So I kind of recognised him at first, but he was like, "Oh yeah, call me Ginge," and I thought, I don't really want to call you that. You're a sergeant. So it's yeah, again, they kind of terrify you because he is like a little angry ginger mountain leader. So yeah, we're another sergeant as well from their Chocks. That was his nickname for reasons. So again, I was a bit like, "Am I allowed to call you that?" I didn't really want to. So yeah, no, it was it was good. When I finally met my corporal as well, Chris, he was so he's originally like a proper little Londoner, but he was alright. He was found out he's like a sniper. Nails little bloke though he was. I've got to stop calling him little in case he listens. But no, I got on alright with him. The rest of the section obviously met Ben. He was my 2IC for my section. So yeah, I kind of proved myself on the exercises. Ended up being put as point man, ready for the operations, because I think there was a lot on some of the exercises. We'd, as Gurkhas, we'd off play the enemy, but I'd ping them from quite a distance away and be like saying to Chris, "There's enemy over there, that tree line." He'd be like, "Where?" I'm like, "Yeah, right there." So I think he was quite happy with me being at the front because I can ping things early. We had like tripwires set up on some exercise. I was like, "There's tripwire right there," or like, "There's a wire half buried." So I was pretty good at pinging things. So I think he was quite happy with me to be at the front. And then prior to deploying, we did like a mission rehearsal exercise because we were going to do. Don't know if you ever see the operation the Paras did on their tour, the Kajaki turbine one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was initially scheduled that we were going to do that as soon as we got out there, but then for some reason or another, the Paras ended up doing it. So we did the rehearsal exercise for that, which was crap anyway. We just got heloed into Wales, put on a hill to look at a road overnight, and that was it. So it was pretty boring. But no, so we were pinged, Lima Company were pinged to be the first company to go to Afghan. So we sort of flew out in advance in September 2008. So by the time I got to unit, it's probably maybe end of April, early May. So I had from May to September to kind of, integrate into the company and sort of learn my place in there, really.
Had most of your section, had they been on ops before, or was it going to be the first time for everyone? As in, first time to Afghan?
I think, I know Ben had. After the corporals, they've all done it. They all did like initial invasion, those Iraqs, and but most of the lads hadn't. Maybe some handful, one or two, might have done like the tail end of a tour as like a battle casualty replacement, but it was not a lot of us really. All the Lance Jacks other than Ben hadn't really deployed. But yeah, Lima Company as a whole, we had a bit of experience, but there's still quite a lot of new lads in there as well.
And what was your expectations of the tour?
Quite high. So we knew prior that we were going to be a regional battle group. So we weren't going to just be dropped off into a fob and just get hammered for like months on end. So we knew we were going to be based out of Kandahar and do like strike ops most of the time. So we kind of, it's hit and miss, because I did initially hear that winter tour was generally quiet, so you're still hoping you're going to get something. But yeah, as I said, we knew we weren't going to get hammered in a fob and just stuck in one place. So yeah, quite apprehensive really for that. But no, it was good. So yeah, ended up out in Afghan. We flew out from Exeter Airport on like a civvy plane. Ended up in like Dubai, switching from there. Obviously, you do your usual acclimatization there for a couple of weeks. That was all at Camp Bastion. That was. Flew over to Kandahar. We were based out of Camp Roberts, which is, Kandahar's massive. Camp Roberts was just his own little compound at the arse end of the camp. So you're miles away from all the food halls, all the shops, anything really. So to get anywhere, they did put on like a little bus service, but yeah, most of the time you're walking like half an hour to go get breakfast or dinner. But we're there for a little bit, and then we got given our first stop, which was going to be convoy based. So we weren't going to get heloed in anyway. It was just jump in a massive convoy and then drive through Kandahar city itself, and then go to the west of it, set up like a desert leaguer, and then operate out of that. But prior to that, all the Lance Jacks had us on an absolute wind up. They said as soon as we go through Kandahar, it's going to be like Black Hawk Down. You're going to get RPGs flying everywhere, and part of it, we all believed it. We're like, oh yeah, I kind of hope it does happen. Utter bollocks. Drove through Kandahar, nothing. All the CVs were just like waving at you. So yeah, load of crap. We set up quite a lot of vehicles. We had like mixture of Vikings and the Vectors, like the armoured Pinsgauers, the old Wimics, But yeah, set up a desert leaguer, and then so like all round defence, dug trenches, had all the mortar pits dug in. So we're going to be there for like a week, and it was pretty gentle, really. There was nothing kicked off. You can still see Kandahar City in the distance. And that night on Sentry, sometimes you'll see tracer fires zipping up into the air, and you think, oh, someone's having a good time. You know, it was the Canadians based in there predominantly, so they were getting scraps. We were getting nothing. You get the chat. So again, for listeners that don't know, it's the ICOM. It's just like the radio walkie-talkie, and we can pick up Taliban communications. So we knew they could see us, and we were in the area, but they just weren't engaging us. So it was getting a little bit, why not? But now it was, every time we went on patrol, I was almost treating it as if there was going to be Taliban around every corner. So every kind of corner I went around, weapon was up, just waiting for something. But yeah, you feel like an absolute dickhead after a while. And then you get told in training, look for piles of rocks because it's going to indicate an ID. And every time there's piles of rocks galore, we're like, cool, there's rocks here. Or Chris. And he was just like, it's bollocks, just ignore it. Not ignore it, you're not complacent, but you can tell when it was nothing. So yeah, we spent about a week in that area. And then we got back in the convoy, moved to the next area. At this point, we were in the Viking vehicle. We're at the front of the convoy. And we were doing like the op bomber, which is using the metal detectors, looking for any IEDs at choke points. We got to a culvert during the daytime. I didn't have to get out for this one because we're taking it in turns, so I stayed in the Viking. Some lads got out, checked the culvert. There's like a little bridge going over it. And what has happened? There's a big pile of boulders on the right hand side of the road. Left hand side was clear, so it's a bit sketchy, but nothing was found. So yeah, we cracked on over. Nothing went boom. It was perfectly fine. Then, probably the third or fourth vehicle after us, there was just a loud bang in the back of the Viking, and all this dust just came in through the top hatch. I had my radio headset down my neck, like just resting here, so I suddenly heard all this contact IED, bit of shooting going on from the top gunners on the GPMGs, and yeah, it's just really weird because we're like in shock a little bit because like, what the fuck's going on, and why is there an explosion going off? Because actually we've gone over the culvert and it was fine. What it transpired was it was a command wire, so the Taliban let us go across because we're the harder target, and it was a Vector that got hit. Obviously, more lighter skinned, less armoured. So that gone bang, and we had 4 casualties from that. Luckily, no one killed, but we had one lad put in a coma for a little while. Another lad lost all his fingers on his left hand apart from his thumb, so he was a GPMG gunner, so he had his left hand wrapped around the stock. So the shrapnel would have just gone straight through his knuckles, taking all them off. So they got Kazakhs out of there. Did have a picture of the wagon, like all the front part of it's been blasted off, and then the wagon behind it had shrapnel marks going past it. So yeah, we decided we weren't going to push on any further down the road. We moved off the road into set up another desert leaguer, and we waited for the Canadians to come out. And they were still using the old like D-Day flail tanks. So you got the tanks with the chains. Yeah, they're still using them, which I was quite surprised at. So yeah, they came out. I don't know what kind of tank it was, but they cleared a bit of the road. We had like other explosions going off, so they were hitting IEDs as well.
So just to explain to people then, that's like a tank with like out in front of it, like on 2 kind of, what would you call them? I'm not a technical man. So basically, just imagine like this big, like kind of like a thrasher almost out in front of this thing, and it just strikes the ground to hit pressure plates. I always actually wondered why we didn't use those, so that's really interesting to...
Yeah, no, it was. I found it interesting. So yeah, it's just, chain with some like balls on the end of it, really. So they just smack into the ground. If there's an ID, bang, it goes. And then you're not damaging the tank. You might just lose a couple of chains, but nothing major. So yeah, they came out and cleared the road, but we still decided, actually, we'll just stay here and operate here. So we were next to some little village. We stayed there for a little bit. Still, there wasn't really any contact going on other than that little initial firefight from the I think it's just like a scoot and shoot. I set the ID off, fired a couple of rounds, and then bugged out of there. But annoyingly, so we were there for like 2 weeks, nothing apart from that. Then K Company flew in to the other side of the village on the Chinooks. The second they came off the ramp, straight into a gunfight. So we sat on that side of the village thinking, are you having a laugh? So yeah, K Company straight into a firefight. We're sitting there. Also, I've heard Ben mention before about, Lima Company was known as Left Out Lima on the previous tours. And I was thinking, it's going to be that again, isn't it? So, yeah, we had like the odd stray round flying over, but nothing major. We're just sort of sitting there on our asses watching it all from a distance and hearing it. But
how did you feel, like taking casualties for the first time?
Yeah, so it's pretty shit because I think there's a little bit of guilt there because obviously we are the front. We are meant to look for the IEDs, but what the engineer said afterwards that it would have been buried so deep, nothing would have picked that up anyway, and the ground was so hard, and obviously all the local civvies around the area would have been told, avoid that bit. So yeah, no, it is crap. But luckily, as I said, there was no one killed, but still life changing injuries with the fingers missing and all that. But yeah, no, it's a bit of a reality check on like the first operations. They weren't Lima Company, those lads. They were. I asked Ben about this the other day. They were from Mortar Troop. So yeah, we lost like 4 mortar lads on that one. Yeah, I believe they all made a recovery. I mean, the one who lost his fingers, he left the corps the same time I did because I remember seeing his hand thinking, "Oh shit, I wonder if that's him." But yeah, pretty crap. And then I said crap here in K Company, getting their first contact literally minutes after being on the ground. But
does your attitude? Sorry, mate. Just before you go into that, does your attitude change in any way once you've had casualties? Did you find that your attitude changed in any way towards how you felt towards the Taliban, or how you felt about yourself being out there?
Not really. You get a bit more pissed off of it because I mean, at the end of the day, you can call like IEDs quite cowardly, but then again, I'd sort of think, well, if I was in that situation in the Taliban shoes, I'd be doing the same. I think we all would. We'd all be fine like that. But no, it does make you like try and be less complacent with anything and actually take a better look. If you getting choke points like that, I mean, the big indicator should have been those massive boulders because it's clearly they shouldn't be there. So yeah, but no, attitude's changed as well. We completely avoided convoy moves after that operation, and we just went straight to air assaults after that, and actually just moving around on the ground without the vehicles as much as we can. So we were quite lucky. We were still getting, for Herrick 9, IEDs were around, but it wasn't as predominant as the tours after that. So we were still, the Taliban were still up for a fight, but yeah, still a slight IED threat, but nothing too crazy at that point.
When was the first time that you got into a fight then?
So that one, jumping ahead. So that operation was September. Did a couple of other operations. So Uruzgan Province is the one where Scott Ryder was. We did about 2 weeks on the ground there. Again, no firefights, but there were signs of Taliban. We did arrest one of the FBI's top 10 most wanted while we were out there. We took him in. We also caught one of the Taliban.
How did that come about?
I'm not sure. It was one of the other troops that did it, so I didn't physically see it, but got told about it afterwards. But I think we just found him. You do like your biometric checks and all that kind of stuff, and it like because we had like most of the operations, we had the military police with us as well, so they would do all their checks. Yeah, I think also on that op, we took over a compound with one of the local drug lords in it, but I didn't realise that. So me and another lad, Nath, were sat on our asses on the front entrance on like Sentry. This guy in the compound just comes walking out, gives a little wave, he fucks off, and then one of the officers came running out. Minutes later, goes, "Has he come out here?" We're like, "Yeah, he's gone that way." And they're like, "Fuck, he's the local drug lord. He's not supposed to go anywhere." We're like, "Oh, okay." But he did keep getting back about an hour later, so I don't know where he went off to. But yeah, I think we left him alone after that. It was, we don't want to obviously piss them off a lot of the time. What else happened on that one? So I also turned 22 on one of the air assaults on one of those days out in Uruzgan. I'm trying to think what else happened on that one. Oh yeah, there's a Taliban quartermaster. We made an arrest on him, and the way they did it, he would be the only one that knows where a lot of the weapon caches are, because if anyone else got caught, you don't want them blabbering where stuff is. So taking him out of the equation, we had his little notebook where everything's hidden and all that. So he got taken out.
1033 pad.
Yeah. So Taliban then lost all their equipment basically in that local area. So yeah, we're getting some good finds, but again, we were still waiting for that big contact. Yes, that one came about again. Jumping forward, so we did the big Operation Red Dagger in December 2008. Also say as well, so I was acting as point man still for this part of the tour, and I had the ECM blue on my back, which if anyone has carried that, they knows what a hefty bit of kit that is. It's honking. So you're pushing about 120, 130 pounds in total for your kit. And also with that being a winter tour, I didn't have room to carry any warm kit. So sleeping bag, forget that. Probably had like one jumper I can put on. So we had, it also, I think it was in Uruzgan as well, we had one op where we're moving to a compound to bed down for the night, and we did our 5s and 20s when we stopped. One of the corporal in my troop, he found a weapons cache under a haystack, but we couldn't get any engineers out to blow that until the next morning, so we had to stay out all night. It was probably the coldest night I've ever spent in my time in the Marines, because we were just sleeping out in the open in the field. All I did was open my osprey out, lay flat on that, and curl up into a ball, pretty much. Absolutely honking, freezing cold. Because I think a lot of people have that misunderstanding that Afghan's just desert and hot, but in winter it's honking, freezing, wet, just miserable. It looks like you could be on like Norfolk somewhere during the winter. But yeah, now going back, so yeah, the December operation was the big one. I mean, the briefing alone for that was about 3 hours long, and the idea was it's essentially going to be 60-kilometer advance to contact. So we were going to land south Nadi Ali, just west of, is it Lashkar? Yeah, Lashkar. So Taliban had done a couple of attacks on the main city itself, so we were going to try and push them out of the area. And the idea initially for the first phase was to land in the south, secure a main road going from north to south, and then they were going to build a patrol base at both ends of it. So we were going to secure the road to allow the convoy to move up and down. So, yeah, we landed in the night, in the early hours, landed straight into a shitty, muddy field, lads falling over, getting stuck in the mud. I ended up getting stuck in one of the ditches out there. So I'd gone ahead as point man, heading towards our first target compound. I ended up in a ditch, couldn't get out. The interpreter had to sort of pull me out of that. Got to the compound, did like an explosive entry with the bar mines on that, blew a hole straight through it. But there were some civvies in there. I think one of them caught something on his head because he had bleeding from his head, but he had the medic look after him. Secured the compound, established sentries on the rooftops, and then probably about an hour after landing, I was out with some of the other lads doing a slight clearance patrol on the outer field, just to the right of the compound, and we could see these headlights approaching the other side. So opposite the compound we were in was you got a main canal, and there's like a T junction on the other side of it. So yeah, watch the vehicle, headlights on, just pull up to that, turn the lights off. I'm like, oh, that's weird, what's going on here? So I was carrying like a thermal imaging scope on my rifle. So I had a quick look at that. I was like, oh, there's about 3 people on that. And then lads on the roof as well could see all that. So Dave, a GPMG gunner, he mentioned it on the radio. He goes, yeah, we've got guys here. And then literally minutes later, they're like, they're unloading weapons from the boot. So Chris on the net was like, well, fucking open up then. So all of a sudden, all these tracer fires like zipping into the car, dropping people. The 2 of them took cover. I know one of them definitely got hit straight away by Dave. And then we had an Apache helicopter come on station not long after that, and he put the old 30 mil into the car. Can't remember if he put Hellfire into it or not, but it was a fucking big explosion. And yeah, that was that threat dealt with. So that was clearly a Taliban sort of patrol coming out, just kind of hearing all the Chinooks coming in, thinking, right, we'll go find what's going on. Obviously they did. Not the way they wanted to, obviously. But yeah, try to get my head down after that. But there's all the ammunition in the vehicle was just cooking off for a good couple of hours. So you get like the odd round going off and zipping past above the compound. And then, yeah, the first proper contact came the next morning. So again, went out to go do a clearance patrol. Went out through the mouse hole that we'd blown the night before. I was point man for that as well. So set out. There was a compound probably about 150 meters away from our one. So we were heading towards that. Got into the field, hooked left along a little bun line, and then we all laid out facing the compound. Another section went to the right flank it. So yeah, we were knackered at that point. We hadn't really got much sleep that night, so we're just laying there, bleary-eyed, thinking, this is shit. And then, yeah, all of a sudden, all those like tracers started coming up from that compound towards the section on the right. I watched one tracer sort of take a big chunk off the corner of the compound. So it's kind of like, shit, we're being, you know, in your head, you're thinking, shit, shots are being fired here. But then training kicks in and you start returning fire. We had everything going off. So GPMG was like, let him rip. I was firing off, pretty much put a whole mag into the building with the SA-80. We had UGLs, like the underslung grenade launcher, firing at it as well. So, yeah, and straight after that, one section came in from the right. We had to then lay off the UGLs. We were getting a bit too close. They started stacking up on the wall breaching the compound. So it was open our side. It didn't have the outer perimeter wall. So the layout from what I could see from where I was there's a building on the left, building on the right, building further back, dead center. So they started clearing through that. Then where watch and shoot was given in the order. As I was just staring at the compound, I was particularly watching this one little window on the top of one of the buildings. So I was staring at that, and all of a sudden I just saw these flashes go off. So I immediately thought, oh, muzzle flash. So I did like a snapshot, brought the rifle up, fired, traced around, went clean through the window. But what it turns out, it was our section throwing a flashbang in there, which I didn't know about. I didn't even know we had them. So, yeah, they breached the room. They did say the tracer round did come through the top window. Luckily, like, well above anyone. So, it was one of those, like, fuck. Yeah, I was like, oh, shit. But, it was a good shot. So I was still quite pleased with myself. So I figured if anyone was from there, they would have got one. So, yeah, that was... Yeah, I class that as a contact, but it wasn't anything, like, directly aimed at me at the time. But it turns out, we didn't get anyone. It was a dicker. So I think he fired a couple of rounds off at the patrol and then legged it out the back. But it was a promising start with what happened the night before and then this. So you kind of knew it was a tasty one. Because that was the first time in Uruzgan Province as well. So, yeah, it was one of those, I think it's going to be a tasty op, this one. It was scheduled to be like 2 weeks long anyway. But, yeah, not long after that, we kind of moved off, started clearing different towns and villages. So it's a weird area, Nadi Ali, because anyone that's been there will sort of know what I'm talking about. It's, from what I've read, the Americans designed it. So it's all very linear. You got straight canals, straight roads. A lot of the towns and villages are very square-shaped, almost like blocks. So yeah, there wasn't really too much else going on until we got to Fob Argyle, which is, I think it's in the very centre of Nadi Ali. Went there, and we were getting ready to assault the next town called Uruzgan Province, which is about 2 or 3 kilometres off to the northeast of where we were. So the idea for that was we were going to be, so my troop was going to be a reserve troop for the break-in. So we were going to be sitting in the back of the Vikings. Everyone else was going to be yomping on foot. At this point, it's pissing it down with rain as well. So yeah, proper cold, wet, miserable, muddy, just disgusting. So we moved off during the night. We were in the back of the Viking, and it was absolutely redders because they had the heating on. So one of the lads jumped on the net to the front of the Vikings. So they're like, look, it's redders back here. You can turn the heating off. We didn't realise that went out to everyone else out on the ground as well. So they're yomping through the piss wet rain, freezing. We're like, yeah, turn it off. So that went down like a shit sandwich. But yeah, we got to the outskirts of Uruzgan Province by daybreak, but I think the Taliban had time to prepare. They kind of knew, as we were pushing north, that's going to be one of our next targets. They'd actually had time to basically dig in. They dug anti-tank ditches across all the main roads going into the town and some of the fields, so we couldn't go in by vehicle. So we had a deep bus, and basically make the break thing on foot. But some of the vehicles, the bikers did find a little gap they could squeeze through, so we managed to use them as cover. So we were on foot behind it, and it just took me back to like World War II. With all the footage you see of people using tanks as cover, moving in, and it's disgusting weather. Because at this point it is pouring it down with rain as well. So yeah, we broke into the compound, in town. It was all kicking off. We had like rounds coming past, RPGs. The odd round was digging off the Vikings as well. But prior to the break-in, going back, I know Ben's mentioned it. As we were crouched down in the field, I was looking at one of the other troops up ahead on the rooftop, and all of a sudden, just shit ton of tracers coming from the left. So I was staring at the compound, thinking, "That's weird. What the fuck's that?" Looks over the left, you just see a scimitar tank. I think it's the Prince of Wales Regiment or something. But yeah, they were basically opening up on the lads on the roof. So it's a big. I can't remember what the cannon size on that thing is. I don't know. It's like 20 mil or something. But yeah, massive tracers zipping past, and one of the lads, you see him swan diving off the roof. He like dislocated his shoulder doing that. So yeah, there was like 2 points I made from that. Really, it's like, well, how can you not identify British troops? And 2, how did you miss? So it didn't really look good for them. So yeah, they got a bit of a bollocking for that one. But yeah, no, we broke into the town, all kicking off. At this point as well, it started becoming more of a 360-degree battle. So Taliban were just popping up all over the place, from like proper built-in positions in the compounds. They dug in like firing holes and all sorts. So they didn't really get much of a look in at them. Except as I was scanning, I had the scope, the ACOG, on my rifle. But annoyingly, I know Ben's touched on this, because they're getting seamed up and wet. I was using my combat jacket to kind of clean off the scope, but all the grit and mud on me actually scratched the lens. So the middle part with the cross areas was just smudged, so I couldn't really see much through that. If I wanted to look at anything properly, I'd have to use like the edge of the scope to actually see anything. But I was just scanning the compounds off to my right. At this point, I'm stood not on the roof. We had lads on the roof at the time. I'm on a low wall that goes halfway up the main compound wall, so I can stand on this wall and peer over the top. Very exposed position. It wasn't probably the best firing position, but it's the only place I could go, really, because we didn't want too many people on the rooftops. Because prior to the operation, we did lose 2 lads from 4-2 Commando, Tony Evans and Georgie Sparks. They got killed. I think it was a sniper pair. They got killed on the roof with just 1 RPG, so we didn't want to, have too many people on these rooftops. But yeah, no, I was just scanning the roofs myself, and I suddenly spotted a bit of movement. I was thinking, right, what the hell's that? In my scope, it was like a little brown, black smudge. So I was looking at it, thinking, right, what is that? And what it transpired, it was basically a Taliban stood behind the compound using something to stand over the roof. So all you can see is like his upper body. So I just remember just looking at it, thinking, what's he doing? I saw this rifle appear. He's building up a firing position. It's like, what the fuck? Because it's just one of those, you're in shock a little bit initially, because you don't really see them. Like, what's this one doing? So took my off scope, had a quick look again, judged the old distance, worked it out to be about 200 metres, and then lined up the ACOG as best I can on that. Squeezed the trigger. First round, because I had a fresh mag on, was a tracer round, watched it arc straight into him. He kind of flopped down on the roof and thought, right, I'll put one more in just to be sure. Fired that, just no more movement from that. But didn't really feel anything. There's no excitement, joy, and I didn't call it out to anyone or start going on about it. It was just, that's a target. I can't really see any features. It's just, it might as well been a figure 11. I suppose that's where training comes into it. That's what they want you to think from it. But the way I looked at it, I just thought that is one threat eliminated. He chose a very poor firing position. I just left it at that and just carried on scanning my arcs and cracking on, really. But,
how do you feel about it? How do you feel about it now?
Still a bit indifferent about it. There's obviously, with a more mature mind now, you do think, right, that was still a person at the time. But then it's one of those, well, I've signed up, I know what I'm doing, and he's also picked up a rifle and, getting stuck in, and it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things you don't really think about too often, but when it does, you don't want to dwell on it. It's happened. You can't change it. At the end of the day, it was a threat to my life, anyone else's life, and you just deal with it. So yeah, training does kick in at that point. You are dealt just to, there's a target, shoot, move on to the next one.
And just to clarify what you're saying as well, figure 11 just being like the targets that you used in your training. So it just felt like that muscle memory almost.
Yeah, so like I said, I couldn't see any features, couldn't see what it looked like, so it's just a shape, really. And yeah, my PID a weapon, and it's fair game at that point, under the rules of engagement that were under at that stage. But so it's not long after that, it kind of went quiet for a little bit, and then there's just some loud cracks of the rounds going over our compound, and then somebody started rolling around and shouting up on the roof in pain. So I remember looking up, going, oh, what's going on up there now? Because I couldn't see them, but I knew they were up there. So at this point, it's Chris, Dave, the G from G Gunner, and Ben. So man down got shouted out. So I was like, shit, okay. So I shouted out man down to the one of our other sections in a different compound. So that came out over the net as well. So yeah, we did. We put cover and fire down. So we started firing at where likely firing points are. Pretty much entered another mag into that. And then Chris shouted up from the top, like Smalls, get up here. So right, okay, that's me then. Put my rifle down. So I had to jump down, put the rifle down because I didn't have a sling on me. And where the roof, to get onto that roof, is a bit of a climb. So I had to haul myself up there. At this point, I'm getting a field dressing, like the bandage out. I had to put that in my mouth. Running across the rooftop. At this point as well, rounds are zipping past. You can hear them cracking. Chris and Ben are putting rounds down as well to cover. I could see Dave laying on his front still, but he's like clutching his back as best he can. So I got to the casualty, knelt down, looked at him and thought, right, obviously he's got to come off the roof. Just can't deal with him on here. Grabbed him by his ankles, started dragging him backwards. At this point as well, got halfway through the roof, and then my foot went through the roof because it's so wet and all that weight on it. So I'm now stuck with a casualty, holding him by his ankles, my foot stuck in the roof, and rounds flying past. So it's like, fuck. So yeah, you got a million things just going through your head at this point. But yeah, got to the other end of the roof where I climbed up, and Matt Plum had jumped on the roof as well. So we sort of switched positions. I jumped down, he stayed up there, and we helped lower Dave down. Obviously, the first thing you learn in with a gunshot wound is you're looking for like an exit wound. So I figured he's obviously been shot. It's going to be an entry. It's going to be an exit wound, which you know is going to be the one that you really want to deal with. So he took his Osprey off, took his U-back shirt off, which had like 2 little holes in it. I was remember looking at his back thinking, what the fuck's going on here? It's just like one little scratch going down it. Looked at his front, thought there's nothing there. Offered him morphine, which he didn't want. So yeah, what happened is the bullet had kind of, as he's laying down on the GP&G, it's gone past his head, underneath his body armour, down his back, come out again, and then embedded in his body armour, because he managed to keep the round afterwards. So yeah, it's just, when you look at it, you think, well, if that had gone an inch or two to the right, you'd have had a face full of that. So yeah, and I got him, put like a bandage around him, and then the sergeant came along and got him back. I think the Vikings took him back to Faubourg Isle and then back on the Chinook, and casevaced out of there. So we were like one man down. I remember, I think Matt stayed up on the roof to man the GP&G as well. There's still contact going on. We had no air support either. Later on in the afternoon, the American Cobras showed up, and they would like, because I think the RAF, or I can't remember, is it the RAF who runs the Apaches? I think it was, isn't it? But yeah, they weren't. Yeah, they weren't. Oh yeah, it is Army Air Corps, yeah. So they weren't going to fly because with the cloud cover and the rain, they'd have to fly too low, and I don't think they really wanted to risk that. But the American pilots are absolutely mental, so they were just flying in proper rooftop level. Scared the shit out of me at one point because I was on sentry on the roof and had one flying directly at me. I was thinking, oh, fucking, this is how it ends. And he peeled off. Not long after that, I saw an RPG fly up towards him, airburst near, and he just swung around and put some 20mm back at him and a couple of kids. And it's just so weird how you get desensitized to it. You just sat there like, oh yeah, that's happening then. You just, yeah. But anyway, yeah, going back to Dave, I think the adrenaline had kicked in because I was shaking a little bit because it's like, fuck, you learn how to do all like casevacs and all that medical stuff, but you don't really expect you're going to be doing it. So, especially on a rooftop with rounds flying past. So it was one of those things. I remember Glenn, our LMG gunner, was down with me, and we were just like talking it through and trying to process it really. But now that battle kind of went on all day, and then into sort of the very early hours. At this point, we'd moved to another compound where the rest of the company were going to like congregate and occupy, because it was big enough to have us all in there, but it was full of the like the moon dust Afghan stuff you get. So imagine that, but with water mixed in, so it's just like soup. It's going like pouring into your boots and clogging up all the. Yeah, it's just horrible. Your feet are just wet, muddy, miserable. So yeah, we stayed in that town for about a day or two. Held a shura, which is like a meeting with the locals. The Taliban had kind of pulled out at this point. But I didn't also. Yeah, so I know Ben mentioned it as well. We had another casualty. One of the mortar fire controllers. He took around that tracer to the leg, so he got evacuated. I didn't find out till after the tour had finished that actually one of the army blokes got killed during the battle. It was Rifleman Stuart Nash from the Rifles. So he was killed that day during that fight. I had no idea at the time until after the tour. So yeah, quite a hard fight that was. That was our first major actual firefight. So yeah, after that we moved out, headed north. At this point, after a few days, the sun had come back out again, so it was starting. It's still cold, but yeah. So still acting as point man. We walked along one of the outer canals, and we could see Taliban like a few hundred meters up the road in their little technical vehicles. So they'd pinged us, and they'd fucking bombarded out there. We picked up a bit of speed to try and catch them, but they saw us and bugged out. And then came probably the next, I don't know if importance is the right word for it, but the next big day really was Christmas Eve, 2008. So yeah, the idea was we're going to move to this area forms a triangle. So we nicknamed it the Triangle of Death because we knew the Taliban had pulled back to it, and that's where we're going next. But I think Ben said it was Kari Kahesaleb or something, or Seb Saleb. But on the map, it's known as Yellow 4. It's technical designations. That's what I'll just call it. The idea was we're going to have a convoy on the main road. They were going to move in, start pushing the town from that way. We were going to push the town from the south, a different direction. But the convoy ran into an idea. I don't think it set anything off, but they'd found one, and they were bogged down. So we then took to the lead break-in position. So I was point man for that. We yomping through the night, actually hard going. So we've got lads with like javelins on their back and all that, so I had to slow down for them. But Chris was actually pretty decent, my corporal. He kind of gave me a bit of leeway with the navigation. So as long as I'm heading that direction, I can sort of decide what paths to take, if I want to go cross-country or not. So yeah, took us down this one little road down the outskirts of town, still dark at this point. And there's a little compound we could see for the night vision off to our left. So myself and Chris went across the field to go and check it out. Got to, this one didn't have an outer wall to it. It's just a series of wall buildings. Got to like a small outhouse, and it didn't have a proper doorway. It was like, as in a door, it had a blanket hanging down. So we stacked up on it. We could hear a bit of movement inside. So night vision's down at this point. I've got my IR torch laser on. So bloke sticks his head out of the doorway, and then Chris tries to sort of apprehend him. He's like, right, come out, trying to grab him. This guy wasn't having it. He pulled straight back in again, so Chris went straight in after him. At this point, I'd pushed past the doorway to cover the rest of the compound. Then there was some of the other civvies in there had heard all the commotion and stepping out. So, I had eyes on them. I could hear all this commotion. Chris, they started going, oh, put it down. So I could hear all that behind me. And then next thing you know, there's just like 6 shots ring out. I'm now thinking, this is now sort of behind me in the door. So I'm thinking, all right, what the fuck's this? So I take a step back, because I'm covering the doorway, but enough distance away from it. I don't know what's going on in there. I can hear just all this commotion, hysterics. And then Chris comes out. He goes, oh, he pulled a pistol. So, it turns out he had like a Makarov pistol on him, which he pulled on Chris, who immediately dropped him. So I could hear all this hysterics in there from a woman, and I could hear a child screaming and crying. So it was like, right, I don't know what all this is. It's all kicking off. You've got the family inside the compound as well. They're confused because to them it's pitch black. To us, we've got night vision on so we can see everything. At this stage, the rest of the section has now joined us because I think they were just outside the compound. And then, we secured the rest of it. About 10 minutes after that, the lady who was in the room, a civilian, she then speaks to our interpreter. It's like, can I get a medic? And we're like, well, why? What's wrong? And she's still carrying the baby. She lifts up the blanket, and what you can see is like the left thigh was just completely split open. So it's obviously taken a round either it went through the bloke or ricocheted off the wall. But either way, it's hit this baby in the leg. So we're like, oh fuck. So we put the baby down, held him, immediately started putting a bandage around. But at that age, they're so small, and it is just fat, the legs. So there was no blood. It was just split open. Immediately put the bandage on that. Found like another hole in the stomach, and a tiny little one. So we put the bandage on that, which, given the baby's size, covered pretty much the whole torso. And we'd already got on the net to get the medics to come over. Still dark at this point. Yeah, they came over. I did a quick handover to them, told them what we'd done, what's going on. The rest of the child's family were kind of surrounding us at this point. There was one of the older gentlemen was there. He was like kneeling down. He was in tears. I remember patting him on the back, trying to reassure him, that it's going to be all right. And then, we called out Chinook to come and basically take the woman and the child back to Camp Bastion. So we went out to the field, made sure there was no debris that's going to affect the Chinook when it comes in. And then mother and child got taken back to Bastion. We knew later on that the child survived. Later on after the op, I know Chris was, he did show a lot of concern for what's going on because, as far as he's concerned, he's dropped a threat and, the baby's ended up getting hit from it. But the way we look at it is if this guy could have just surrendered, could have just put his hands down, put his hands up, and then he'd have been taken away, he'd be out now. But that was the first sort of up-close body I've seen. So obviously, I hit the one I hit, that was 200 metres away, never saw that. But this was the first one I've seen probably. You can see like the pistol laying down next to him, and after further investigation after that, it turns out he was a Pakistani commander, Taliban commander. He had like shit ton of money, loads of like weapons, and well, his pistol and other like identification stuff on him. So I think that's why he didn't really want to be taken in. But yeah, no, that was a shock. Like, you don't, again, as I said earlier, you don't expect to use your medical training, especially on a civilian child like that. So yeah, it was a little bit, bit shaking. But I think we dealt with it pretty well, and obviously got the baby out of there. But the rest of the day we moved into the town. At this point it was like daybreak, and my troop occupied the western side of town, one little compound on its own. The rest of the company moved off to the right, the eastern side of the town. It's pretty quiet for most of the morning, but when I was up on sentry, I know Ben was up on with a mini gunner far left of he was far left of the roof. He was far right, I was far left. And this vehicle just comes flying around the corner. White vehicle. There's a large compound in front of us. Comes flying around the corner straight at us. So we put some warning shots down. He ignored that, and then a 3-round burst went into the driver's side. The car came to a stop. And I remember looking through the ACOG and seeing the driver just like waving at me. So I was like, "This is really weird." I just waved back at him because I don't know what he's supposed to do. After about 10 minutes, the door just came open. He flops out. He's blood pouring out of his shoulder all over his clothes. And it's like, oh Christ, not again. So we had to send a quick patrol out to go and bring him in. He got like IB drip put in him. We had to call the Casevac again. This time it was a Sea King helicopter which landed just outside the compound we were in. Him and his mate that was in the car with him got Casevacs, but again he was fine. But I don't know, it's just a weird situation of why we weren't sure why he was just driving straight at the compound like that. Obviously with IED threats and vehicle-borne IEDs, we didn't know if it was any of them or not. So there was a threat, rounds went in. Luckily didn't kill him. But so that was like mid-morning, and I got my head down for like an hour, and then it all just massively kicked off. It's like probably the most amount of fire I've heard up till then. Like just rounds flying over, RPGs. You can see them going up into the sky, and it's just mental. It wasn't aimed at us. That was like overshots that were going past us. So Taliban were hitting 7 and 9 troop on the other side of town. I think they were in like a wood block. It's like a small wood block across the riverbank. They're engaging from there. So that went on for quite a while. And then we heard man down over the net. I think it was communicated. I can't remember what the terminology was. Like, T1, T3. I can't remember which one was the worst one. But we initially told walking wounded. So we put a section up against the wall, ready to cover the doorway so we can bring the wounded to us to get evac. So we saw the lads bringing in a stretcher with Lance Corporal Ben Watley on the stretcher. And we immediately knew this is not, walking wounded. This is serious, because the medic came in with the sergeant major. And you could just see how serious this was. So he got put down in the middle of the compound. So we stood there watching for a little bit. We got ushered into a room, so we didn't have to see anything. But we came back out after a while. But I could see the lads that knew Ben the most were like really concerned, obviously. But now we went back out, and he'd already passed at this point. Because I remember seeing them putting the blanket over him. We basically lost Ben. He'd, from what I heard, he was on the rooftop. There is footage on of him doing this. So he's up on the rooftop helping the GPMG gunner out, and then so you can see the footage doing that. You don't see anything else after that. But what happened is he tried to get the 66 rocket off. So as he popped up with that, he took a round to the neck, basically bled out on our compound. I don't think there was any saving him from that. But now that was when it really kind of hit of like, this is really serious. Obviously, you've seen casualties, but this was like, as bad as it gets, really. The last thing I remember seeing is the medic basically ruffling Ben's hair as he got taken out to Chinook. There was a bit of a kickoff with the helicopter, because they were refusing to land initially at that spot, because the Sea King previously had landed there. And obviously you're setting patterns. If another one comes in, Taliban might already know that's what we're going to use. So there was that risk. But the sergeant major was just giving them a right. shout at them to make sure they landed, which they did. And yeah, but it's really weird because like you do see it in the films of like time sort of slowing down during like moments like this, and it kind of did feel like that at the time when you're in shock with it. There's still rounds flying past, and at this point, we've got Apaches above us. They're firing F-30mm. They've got flechette missiles flying off. They're right above you while this is all happening. So yeah, they were just hitting that wood line pretty hard. Taliban withdrew eventually, and then sort of that was it for the day. So we were just left in the same compound for the night. The army lads that were with us, they volunteered to do sentry for us all night, so we could rest up, which was, I think that's pretty decent of them because there's quite a lot to process from all that. So I personally didn't know Ben that well. He was one of the big personalities in the company, so you still like knew who he was, and he's a bit of a joker as well. But yeah, no, there was a lot of lads there that were really good mates with him, so it hit them really hard. So yeah, I mean that was like, I don't want to say luckily, but luckily that was our only actual serious casualty on the tour. But yeah, it's still shit when you think about his family on Christmas Eve. It still hits me every Christmas Eve thinking about them and obviously where I would have been at that time as well. So
they would have got the news on Christmas Day then, would they?
Yeah. Well, no, Christmas Eve it would have been. So given the time difference, they probably would have been told about lunchtime Christmas Eve, I'd imagine.
Christmas, of course.
I don't want to speculate, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then
what did you think? Like, did you have thoughts like that when you're doing this big op about fuck me? It's Christmas. What if someone did that enter your head when you were giving the orders and stuff, and when you're doing that op?
Yes and no in a way, because I do want to like whistle up, but sometimes you do hear stories when there's a casualty of, they just it was just their birthday that time, or there was some sort of event coming up. So even on my birthday out there on Uruzgan, I was thinking, I'm turning 22 now. That's probably what's going to happen on this day. But no, you do sometimes. Yeah, it does cross your mind sometimes. But then you can't really dwell in it. You got to like push these things out of your mind. So it was still like the mindset I had as well. So being point man, you are at the front, and if anyone's going to trigger something, it's going to be you. But it's one of those things where you can't dwell on it. You just have to put one foot in front of the other and hope you don't step on anything. And I hope that you're going to see something. But yeah, my mindset, not to sound like, I'm not trying to sound like hero or stoic or anything like that, but I just pushed it out of my mind and thought, if something happens, it happens. I'd rather I step on something rather than I miss something and someone further back behind me triggers something that I've missed, because that would have been, don't think could have dealt with that. But I mean, there was a few lucky occasions out there in terms of, obviously, first IED, we were lucky in the front vehicle. Obviously, the others weren't, so I won. But there was other time in another compound where later on in the tour, we cleared it, secured it, used the metal detectors on it afterwards to look for anything, and then we found, me and an engineer found a anti-personnel mine right in the doorway. Buried quite a bit, so I don't know how no one set that off, or if it was just wasn't going to work or anything. But again, that's one of those lucky moments. But yeah, no, it's just mad how things work. That's pretty much what warfare is, really. It's just luck, isn't it? So, wherever you decide to stand, left or right, or like again for Dave, if he was a little bit more to the right, he would have caught that somewhere he wouldn't want to. So, but you do sometimes think about these things. But again, you don't want it. It'll drive you crazy if you think about it all the time. You won't be able to do your job properly. So. Okay, so so that tour, that operation, finished a couple of days after Christmas Eve. So we kind of cracked on Christmas Day. Luckily, no incident, but there was frustration that in the town, Yellow 4, where that happened, there's a big crane in there, and it had a Taliban flag on top of it, a big white flag with like Islamic writing over it, basically them laying claim to it. So one of our sergeants, Elliot Tanno, he climbed up there, got bollocking for doing it, but he climbed up, threw it down. But yeah, when we moved from that town to the next one on Christmas Day, you could look back and see that flag back up there again. So despite fighting in that town and losing a man, you look back and it's like, oh, they're there again. So again, I know Ben's alluded to this before as well, that we are pushing the Taliban back, but there's no one taking that ground after us. So Taliban just move aside, let us go through sometimes, and then just they're there still. So yeah, a bit frustrating. But we did on Christmas Day we did go in a compound and find some turkeys. Weirdly enough, the only turkeys I've ever seen out in Afghan. But we bought them off the farmer and we dished them out amongst the troops. So we actually did have turkey on Christmas Day, which is a little morale boost. But yeah, no, that operation finished. Took a few casualties wounded on that one. Obviously with Ben as well. So it's quite our big operation really. After that though, we went on R&R for 2 weeks. After that, so that was like early January. Next stop after that was called Operation Diesel. So they write the name.
Can I just ask you some questions on R&R?
Yeah.
How did you feel? How did you feel coming back on that? Was it something that, like, did you come back as a troop? Was it something that you felt was a benefit to you? Like, what was your thoughts on it?
I wouldn't say it's a benefit really. It's nice to go back and see the families because we would have all had like a delayed Christmas. Families would have obviously waited. But we came back actually a day or two earlier than expected, so that was a bonus. So the RAF obviously didn't fuck that one up like they usually do, but not to slag them off too much. But I found it weird because when I was walking out, because I live at this point, I wasn't in Brentwood anymore. I was in Colchester. My family had moved there, so obviously that was my home base after that. I remember walking through town, and I just felt on edge. So yeah, you just come back from there, you are checking every alleyway, every doorway, scanning around. That's how I still felt. I was still in that kind of mode. I wasn't fully relaxed. I met up with a girl I know and some of her mates in Wetherspoons in Colchester, and it was weird because they obviously had their own little clique. They're talking about things I don't have a clue about or people I don't know about. I'm just sort of sat there, almost like third wheeling. No one's asking me anything about what's going on out there, what it's like. So you get frustration. And then she kind of had a go at me about, you're not getting involved, you're not doing anything. And I'm just literally thinking, literally a week ago, I was getting shot at, dealing with this, that, and the other. And I was storming out of there because I just thought, fuck yeah, left it at that. So yeah, you get like frustrations of that. It would have been nice to ask, is everything all right? But yeah, you weren't getting that. I remember sleeping a lot back home as well, just to settle in a bit. And yeah, no, it's surreal because, you go into the cinema as well and you just sort of sat there thinking, again, I was getting shot at a week ago. So you're not, but also, you're going back there again in literally like a week's time. So it's nice to come back, but I still think probably would have benefited maybe more just staying out there and still in the same environment, but more like a relaxed. So on Kandahar or Cambastian might have been more beneficial, really. So yeah, no, it was a slight struggle. Obviously, everyone's experience is different. That was just, that's how I felt out coming back home. But yeah, no, it was more beneficial to see sort of friends and family. But yeah, friends when they're not being dicks. So,
were your mates, like your troop mates, are they all back at the same time as well, or are you staggering through?
No, we all came back. So Lima Company all came back, okay. And I know K Company stayed out, and they did like a operation while they're out there. And then we flew back out, and then K Company came out. Because obviously we were the first ones to fly out to Afghan, so we obviously been there longer. So we were the first ones to come back for a bit. Gotcha. But yeah, no, they still cracked on with doing ops.
So you're saying about this raid into Sangin?
Yeah, no, that was the first operation back. All it was just going to be a 24-hour raid into Upper Sangin Valley. So the idea was I think there's 3 landing zones. We're going to work with 4-5 Commando. They were going to hit some as well. It almost felt like a classic sort of Commando raid, which I felt quite good about. So I think Recce troop did like a diversionary attack further north, which drew quite a lot of the Taliban out of the area. And then my Lima Company, we were going to secure the river crossing. So we landed at night right next to the compound. So we flew in mega low down one of the valleys, and it scared the shit out of me because I was being like usually first for the helo. I'm right at the back, nothing to hold on to. They're zigzagging around. They started popping the flares off, which made me think, what the fuck's going on? Because it was just loud noises and flashes. I thought we were getting hit. But now they flared off, and we landed right next to our compound, this one. yeah, the idea was to basically surround that little area because we knew it was a known Taliban sort of drug factory and where they were hiding weapons and stuff like that. I think there's a few IED factories as well. So yeah, for this one as well, we had the SBS came out as well. They sort of landed with us, but they buggered off and did their own little thing. They obviously had their own. I don't know, they were just piggybacking off us to land and disappear. So that's quite Gucci to see them because all their Gucci kit, and you're like, whoa. Yeah, kit pesting with that. But you know, we landed and secured our compound. And not long after we landed, we started picking up Taliban communications on the ICOM, and they were talking about how we found one of their vehicles. They had a vehicle in our compound with the weapons mount on the top. So we found that, and they were saying that we found it. So we're like, oh, they obviously know we're here, could see us. We ended up pushing out the river to deny it to them. So on the opposite bank to the river where I was, there was there was like a little cave network. So I was using the Viper and just scanning that. Didn't pick up anything from there. Didn't pick up anything anywhere. So they were watching us, but I don't know where from. And then come sort of daybreak, we started sending out patrols from this compound just to, find all the factories, which we did. No 4-5 found a few as well. They were getting into a bit of a scrap. The other side of the area we were in, so clear the Apache firing off as well and all the gunfight. Weirdly, in this compound, there was a massive, like, king-size bed as well, like an actual proper bed, which I thought was mental for Afghan. And a bunch of us just all cuddled up on that. Get a red towel most of the day. But we couldn't really sleep too much because we had the snipers and the javelins on the roof. They were firing off every couple of minutes. I know one of the javelins caught one of the Taliban sort of over a wall. Taliban knew it was coming. He tried to vault the wall and, took the rocket. So there's a lot of that going on. The snipers doing their job. Most of the day, it was just escorting like military police around just to verify what we're finding, and we were blowing some of the factories, burning some of them. We found like 3 massive bags of heroin around our compound, and I think afterwards they equated it was about £50 billion worth of heroin that we took out. Found loads of weapons. There's like Martini Henry and Lee Enfield rifles from like fucking ridiculous years ago, so they were still using them out there. That was just a quick raid. Destroyed. There was no real serious contacts for us. We weren't getting that many rounds down. And then we landed the night, did that during the day, and then at dusk we then moved off, go to the LZ, the old landing zone. But at one point as we were yomping along, again I could see we were walking towards a big old mountain. I was looking at it going, why are we walking towards that? Again, put the thermal imager on. I could see these little white dots zigzagging up the hill, and I was like, oh fuck, that's going to be nice. But luckily at this point we had some new lads, so I'd palmed off the ECM blue to them. Like, you're having that now. So I promoted to DaySac and the 66 rocket on it. So yeah, climbing up the mountain wasn't as bad as it could have been. But yeah, we got to the other side. Chinook's came and picked us up, so it was just literally like a 1-day, 24-hour raid. So pretty successful as well. Then after that, we just did a couple of like Kandahar operations. Did have the other one I've told you about before. So the idea was, I think we're going to do like a week-long operation, but we're going to kick it off by landing next to a compound which we knew Taliban leadership were in. So it's going to be land, smash it, kill or capture. However, we landed, getting back of Chinook. One of the sections ran off the back of it. When I was just about to get off the ramp, the helicopter took off again. So there's me staggering on the ramp thinking, oh fuck. Like, just really struggling to keep up. And next time I hand grabs my shoulder, it's my Chris, my corporal, pulling me back in again. So what happened is the pilot realised he was in the wrong field and the wrong compound, so he took off again to go to the correct one. Only a couple of fields along, but he's still got a lot of shit for that because once one section's off, everyone needs to get off. So essentially, he's just ditched a section on the ground, me nearly falling out of it, and then taken off again. So yeah, that resulted in, if the Taliban were still in that compound, they bolted because they weren't there when we got there. Another operation. We had one of our sergeants, Noel Connolly. He rugby tackled a suicide bomber off a motorbike. Yeah, but basically he was running a checkpoint with 2 of the other Marines. Motorcyclists came up. Well, I didn't see it. This is what I've been told afterwards. Motorcyclists came up, fell off, went back again, came back, and when he was literally parked up right next to the sergeant and the other Marines, he just a little loud bang on the motorbike, and he basically had a little switch in the middle between the handlebars, which he's trying to desperately trying to hit. to like set off the explosives, because the whole bike was just rammed with explosives all over it. So he's trying to clack that off, and Noel kind of knew what was going on. He just probably tackled this kid straight off it. Say kid, he was like a young lad, but it took him straight out, and we took him prisoner. We had to guard him all night. He was quaking in his boots most of the night. Understandably, he's literally trying to blow a bunch of Marines up. But we ended up actually taking that bike back to Bickley Barracks as well in Plymouth, so that was probably still there somewhere. So that's a little souvenir. But he, so I think they estimated the amount of explosives in there would have taken out, well, definitely those three. And I think I would have been in the blast radius because I was further down the road running my own little sentry position on this little ditch bit. But he saved a lot of people with that, and he rightly so got the military cross for that. Because it's just utterly mental. Like, who does? I mean, most of us would have dropped the guy, like, the rifle rather than rugby tackle him. So, yeah, pretty mental.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah. Well, I know they're opening a Royal Marines Museum, mate. So I think that.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That should go in there, mate. That's a brilliant story.
That's a good shout, actually. That should definitely go in there. But I just find it mad how, we haven't had a VC winner since 1945. And you've got lads that are like strapping themselves to Apaches and tackling suicide bombers. It's mad how one hasn't come out yet.
Well, I've had this conversation with, we had actually last week's guest on. He did say this. He was, I don't know if you heard it, he was awarded a Silver Star. But I'm listening to the story and I'm thinking, how the fuck's this not a Medal of Honor?
Yeah.
And when I hear someone rugby tackling a suicide bomber, I'm thinking, that's a VC, isn't it? Like, rugby tackling a suicide bomber. But yeah, there you go, mate. But,
yeah, like I said, no one does it for medals, but
no, of course not.
Yeah. It's mental. But other than that, there was just a few small operations, and the next big one, it would have been March 2009. So that was at this point. Yeah, so Barack Obama had announced he's going to do his surge of troops into Helmand, which is going to be, I think, US Marines. So we were going to do like a reconnaissance for them to see where they can put them. So we went down to what's called the Fish Hook, which if you look at a map of Helmand, it's where the river goes south and then hooks immediately left to go towards, it's Iran, isn't it, next to it? So yeah, it goes that way. So no one had really operated down there, so we were going to be the first proper conventional units down there to check it out. So this operation was going to be like a month long. So we flew down to Fob Dwyer, which is about halfway down. While we're there, we were like doing weapons cleaning, and I remember cooking up on my jet boil, and next thing I know, the sand next to my foot suddenly explodes, and I'm thinking, right, that's what's going on here then. And then I looked to my right, and one of our, I won't name him, but one of the lads had an ND or a GPMG, which right next to my foot. Single round, luckily, but close enough. He also done that right in front of our CO and RSM as well, so he got talking to for that one. That would have not been nice having your foot shot off like that. But, now we went straight down onto the op. There's so one thing we did in the Marines was a lot of yomping with all the kit. It was meant to be our bread and butter, but yeah, in Afghan we did a lot of it. I remember like one operation we did a dusk till dawn, and we were absolutely hanging out our ass on that one. That's when I had ECM blue as well still. To the point that I was hallucinating. I know Ben was as well. I think he said he saw Mickey Mouse out in the desert. I saw a cruise ship in the desert. It was that bad. And it got to the point near the end, the wagon did rock up. I was like, does anyone want to stick any kit on here? So I was like, yeah, you can have my ECM blue. There you go. But I'd been carrying it that long that my back was so crooked and hunched over that it hurt more to try and stand up. And so I just thought, give me that back. So I took the bag back and cracked on with it. And my feet were in bits at the end of it. So even though we're like, we're commandos, we're fit, this is what we do. We were at the end of our limits on that one. So yeah, most of that month-long operation was just yomping in from the desert, hitting some places, we're searching them, going back out again, recuperating for a day or two with a desert leaguer, getting rations back again, and then either walking in, getting the Viking in, or the Chinook. For one of these, we did we flew in. We called it like Mount Doom from like Lord of the Rings. It was just a big black old volcano-looking rock thing. It was like a little shanty town that we moved through, pretty abandoned. Went down to the river. So my troop were going to secure the river crossing so we can cross it as a company during the night. And we had one of the Padres with us. I don't know where the fuck he pulled this from, but he had a fishing rod with him. So he was stood in the Helmand River fishing. And we were like, what the fuck are you doing?
Legend.
Yeah. So yeah, we secured that. Actually, well, I don't think he did. No, I didn't catch a thing. So it's a waste. But again, why is he carrying a fishing rod in the hope that he's going to get a chance to fish?
It's alley, mate.
Yeah.
I've actually sorry to go off on a tangent, but I'm wondering if maybe he picked this up from the same place. But I've actually heard this. I can't remember what regiment he was, but there was a padre that I came across an interview with him, and he did the same at the end of the Second World War. That he went off, and it was when it's like the war was kind of winding down, but still hadn't finished, and he went off fishing, and then he got back, and he basically crossed the lines and had been fishing in like the German side of the lines. And so, but they must be something with padres and fishing, mate. If you're a padre listening to this podcast, please chime in, let us know if this is part of your training.
Yeah, just mental. But now we ended up crossing the river that night. Some lads took trousers, boots off to cross, but I just thought, fuck it, it's going to go across. Because at this point of the tour, it's actually warming up again, so it wasn't freezing cold. But we crossed the river, and we were going to hit the Taliban at a town called Kanashin, which again, I know the US Marines had a big old fight there afterwards. But we moved in. Again, we knew this was going to be tasty because K Company had a suicide bomber go off, didn't hit anyone prematurely, went off and took his mate out as well. So I remember seeing all the smoke and bits flying up over the roof of a different compound. So it's like, oh, great, here we go. Yeah, clear through the compounds again. You start to recognise the patterns. So the Taliban tend to just watch you for most of the morning, and they'll hit you at lunchtime or early afternoon. So you kind of know when it's going to kick off. But no, we got in. The whole company went into a compound big enough for all of us. I was there, getting my head down on my feet, airing out. And again, next thing you know, rounds flying off. Started kicking off. Had a good video and pictures of one of the lads on the roof getting a javelin off as well, towards them. It's quite a good Gucci. And then I remember I had my camera and I was stood one end of the compound on my own, filming it all kicking off. And all of a sudden, all these explosions started like banging off outside the compound. We were thinking, what's going on now then? And then turns out it was Taliban mortaring us for a change. So they were landed just outside the compound. And in my footage, you can see people just darting into the compound. I got nowhere to go, so I'm just flinging myself to the floor behind like a pile of wood. I went off about a minute, just like quite a few mortars landing outside. Luckily, nothing in the compound. But after that, we knew what compound the Taliban were in. So OC gave like quick battle orders. Was that right? 8 troop, which is my troop. You're going to go assault these compounds, and they decided 2 sections. I'm going to lead it. So again, that's us then. So it's surreal approaching compounds that you know Taliban are in, especially across open ground. And and also prior to this, one of our quartermasters said, because we're not using the bayonets, can he have them back? So we had to give our bayonets back. So I don't know what the thinking behind that decision was, but that would have been the perfect time to have them. And I'd like a Commando dagger. Oh, it's just ridiculous. But I'd like a Commando dagger anyway, the whole tour, like stuffed into my Osprey. So I had that just in case. And also looks alley, doesn't it, and Gucci. So yeah. So no, we are pulling man for that again, approaching the compounds, thinking, fuck, here we go. We got to the edge, we threw some grenades over into it. The only casualty for that was a goat, who I think saw the grenade come over and ran towards them. Because as we went into combat, he's there twitching away, and didn't like that. I mean, I'm an animal lover, I love it all, but yeah, that happened. So we secured the first compound. So it's a series of them. So there's like 3 of them all lined up and almost adjoining, like a small little alleyway between them. So my section took the first compound, next section then pepper potted into the next one, and the Taliban basically waited for that section to get in the compound before opening up. So all hell just broke loose in there, and so we started getting our lads on the roof to cover them. I went outside the compound a little bit. There's like an outhouse to the next one, so I was putting rounds down on that in case anyone was in there. We put like UGLs and all sorts in it, absolutely vittled it up. But no, the lads in that were having the firefight inside that compound then withdrew. I later heard the GMG gunner was literally blind firing over one of the walls because it was that close and that intense. So they restacked up on the outer wall, and the Taliban were throwing grenades at them, but they were landing short of the door, but the blast was coming through the door. And it's just mental. So we withdrew back, and lads on the roof could see Taliban darting around in the next one, so they were getting rounds down. Apache showed up. and he was going to put 30 mil like danger close right inside that compound, which is just the other side of the water where we are. So we had to get lads quickly off the roof. We'll add as well at this point, Dave, the GPMG gunner who got shot, the one I dragged off the roof, he'd actually come back out again a month later. So yeah, went back, got patched up, and came back out. I think he still had a bit of a sore shoulder, but yeah, he was back out again, which is fair play to him. The Apache came along, started putting rounds down into that compound, and we went back in and secured it, and like 6 Taliban dead in there. But just after that as well, I spotted one guy trying to do like a runner across the field nearby. You can see he was limping a little bit, so it was we knew that confirmed Taliban. So I gave out the, range, who it is, and all this. Pointed out to the corporal. At this point, one of the new lads, he didn't know how to recondition the LASM. So the 66 rocket, you pull it out ready to fire. He didn't know how to put it back down again to make it safe again. So I had to then do that. And at that point, Chris said, "Well, someone drop him then." So Dave, GPMG gunner, dropped this guy doing a runner. Later heard some of the other fighters tried to escape by jumping in the river and floating downstream. But where they decided to get out was right amongst K Company. So they didn't last long either. So all in all, quite a successful fight. I know one of the signallers got his antenna shot off. A nice little hole going through the antenna. So yeah, pretty close. And that was like the first time being properly mortared as well. I mean, you get like on Kandahar, you get the rocket attacks, but it's such a big airfield, you're not really any close to anything. So yeah, that was a good little fight. After that, again, it was all zipping in and out of different towns, villages, nothing really major going on, the odd mini firefight. And then we went out in the desert to sort of rearm, another desert leaguer, miles from anything. Me and a bunch of other lads decided to go onto the nearest hill, and bootnecks being bootnecks, got naked, and we'll take photos of each other, like posing on the hill. There's a nice photo of me from behind, arse out, looking out, hands on hips. But as we were doing that, we heard a little bang in the distance. It was like, oh no, here we go. And yeah, what seemed like a few seconds later, it was just when you hear the rocket make that weird whoosh noise, but that really high pitched, just that coming in, and it just exploded about 200 meters off to our front on a forward slope, like dust and smoke going up in the air. I was like, fuck. So trousers pulled up and legging it back to the Liga, and you can see everyone else scattering, getting all the body armor and helmets on. Another round did get fired as we were legging it. I don't know where that one ended up, but the whole position had to move after that, which we initially got the blame for, us on the hill. They were like, they obviously spotted you, and it's like, well, K Company are over there, get sunbathing in the other slopes. I reckon it was them. Not to slag off K Company, but so we moved, and we did get punished for it. Fair enough. All we had to do is dig in, dig a shell scrape and man a sentry position amongst the sort of 5 or 6 of us for the rest of the night, which is fine. Took it on the chin, got on with it. But it's every time I see that picture, I'm like, yeah, there's a good story behind it. My mates are sick of seeing it. Every now and again, I'll just sort of send it to them, like, look at that. So that's why they're in blogs me it. That was a fun little experience. So I have a little laugh, chuckle now and again, thinking some Taliban had his binoculars out, getting the good eyes on. But it turns out, I think it was a Chinese 107 rocket they fired at us for that one.
Oh, really? Fuck.
Yeah, so they got the old big ones out for that. Need to adjust the aim a little bit, luckily. Yeah, no, that was pretty. Rest of that tour, I mean, that operation anyway went on for about another month. A month long in total. And then we went back to Cambassian, regrouped for 3 or 4 days, and we went out on our final one, which was so the whole operation was called Blue Sword. I think it's like just Blue Sword 2, so I think that that exciting. But this one, any US Marines listening will know Marja was like, that was their big battle. But we went in there first, and all this one really was, it was going to last a week long. It was just basically kick the hornet's nest, kill as many Taliban as you can, and get out of there, really. So for this one, we had, I think we were going to land in 3 waves. We used some of the American helicopters for this as well. So we were part of the second wave. K Company gone in first. So we went in during the early hours of dawn, so it was daybreak at this point. Yeah, so we already been told that the first wave were in contact. So by the time the Chinooks had up, I think it's CH-53 or whatever they are, massive American ones. They by the time they come and picked us up, we already knew this was going to be a good op, and that they're already in contact. So Marja itself, if you're looking at a map, you've got Nadi Ali, and then Marja is the next bit of ground just southwest of that. So we're going to take that, but it was a proper Taliban stronghold. So we flew in, landed in the desert. We also had the Sun news reporter with us, his cameraman. So they were doing like a big article on it. He ended up walking around near me. Like, he was in front of me, and he was every time something so much as fart, and he'd be ducking and diving around. So he was on edge. We were kind of experienced at this point where we're just walking along. You know what's close and what's not. But he got a good story out of it. We landed, regrouped. We had, I think it was Danish or Dutch or Estonian, one of the three. They had Leopard tanks ran in the high ground, just looking into Marja, so they were going to secure that for us. One of them did go with an IED, but Commander sort of popped his head out of the hatch, gave a thumbs up, and went back down again, so it didn't damage him or anything. But going back to them, I had quite a lot of respect for them. I mean, we worked with like Americans, Canadians quite a lot. Yeah, Dutch, Estonians, heard their version of the MG42, the modern, is it MG3 or something? We heard them black.
I know what you mean, though, yeah.
Yeah, God, as soon as we heard them, they're like, what is that? So, they were pretty good. But now we moved, the bridge we wanted to use to get across the canal was IED, so we couldn't use that. Engineers set up a, one of their little makeshift bridges, but you can only get one man across it at a time, and at like a bit of a walking pace. So that took a bit of time to get the whole company. K Company had already crossed. Leave company then, it was our turn. But as you're crossing, you're getting the odd pot shot coming in from the Taliban. I got to the other side. There was no cover. So all the other cover around us was taken up by everyone else. So I stood in the open with Chris, like, where are we supposed to go then? Next thing you know, these rounds started flying in, so we had to run for wherever we could find. Then the order came in to link up with K Company. Chris ran on ahead, as he does, because he was a madman, at the end of the day, but in a good way. Yeah, he ran across, linked up with them, and then actually, I'll compare Chris. If you think about the brothers, Lieutenant Spears, that's pretty much what Chris is like. He linked up, waved us over. I was like, right, lads, Fred, move. Ran across, getting rounds of zipping past. K Company are putting cover and fire down. They've already taken 2 casualties at this point. Luckily, just wounded, nothing major. So we linked up with them. And then we started pushing further into Marja. It was just kicking off all day, all night. We had constant cover from Apaches and Cobras. They were just like taking it in turns to take cover. So we had always had air support. We had fast air coming in as well, dropping bombs. Taliban do have anti-aircraft guns. I think like the old ZU-23, things like that, the old Russian ones. But they're all prestige weapons, which means they have them, but they don't want to use them. They just want to be able to say they've got them. Except for this operation, they were using them on the Apaches, and apparently they were taking pot shots at one of the planes landed in a bastion as well. So they were going all out to defend that area. And we all know as well, Taliban don't generally fight at night. On this operation, they were that desperate to hold on to that ground. Like, they thought we were taking it, we weren't. We just wanted to stir them up and deal with them. But it even got to like, as it was getting dark, there was still fire going on. We ended up in a compound on our own, just me and my section. We occupied that, and the Taliban were on the net, giving it the bigger one, saying they're going to go and hit the furthest compound down, which I think it was R1 at the time. So we're getting braced for that. I ended up sitting there facing this little wooden door, hoping that they're going to come kicking it down and burst in, and annoyingly they didn't. So they obviously jacked that in. But and during the night, we linked up with the rest of the company because we were quite exposed where we were. Ended up in an old school that the Taliban had used as a bomb factory. So there's like IED stuff laying around that hadn't fully made yet. But we ended up spending about 2 days there. We were surrounded in total by the Taliban, and we had lads up on the roof, put sandbags up, and javelins going off everywhere. It was mental. It felt like total, because you just hear firefighters kicking off all over the place, and like fast air dropping bombs. It was proper mental. And in the end, our commanding officer decided that actually after 3 days, we'd kind of done what we wanted to do. We killed 130 Taliban in those 3 days. So we kind of didn't want to push our luck, really. Because on the Icon, we could hear they were calling in reinforcements all the way from Pakistan as well. That's like 130 miles away. So, they were that desperate for that. I think one of the Taliban commanders as well, he tried to do one with his bodyguard, ended up again running into K Company, who filled up his vehicle. It was a good last operation, but we ended up sneaking out of the school during the night and actually slipping past the Taliban without noticing, and then just disappearing back in the desert again. And I wish I had the whole quote, because they were on the Icon talking about just how we operate in terms of that we pop up everywhere and we just disappear into the night. I think they called us like angels of death or something similar to that, because we were just.
Golly.
I know. I want that quote again. But we did leave him a present. Ben, I know Ben and a few other lads wrote on one of the school walls. They drew the Globe and Laurel, obviously our cap badge, on the wall, and they wrote, "Congratulations, Terry Taliban. You've been well and truly smashed by British commandos from Her Majesty's Royal Marines, Primare Pataram," and left a little for 8 troop. We left like a 8 card with the 8 on it, little playing card. And I have seen it that when the US Marines went into Marja, I've seen a picture of that mural like just shot to pieces. So the Taliban obviously saw it. What they made from Birmingham over and when, what's that say? And no offense to Birmingham. And shot the crap out of it. So yeah. But no, it was a good op. It was a good one to finish up on. And there was like lads smoking victory cigars after it, and so you sort of finished that whole tour with a bit of a bang. So that was it really. Finished that one.
So you said earlier that you joined the Royal Marines wanting to experience a war. Did you feel like you got what you wanted out of that tour?
Massively. Yeah. So look, plenty of firefights, plenty of close calls. Don't really want to do Casevacs, but obviously did that as well. So you got almost like the full experience of all of that. But I'm just happy that we did what we did, how we did it. So as I alluded to before, we weren't just stuck in a fob, getting smashed every day. And as Gucci that is, but when you see the Paras back in Sangin when they were getting hit all the time, that you saw the footage, that looks Gucci. Probably wasn't for them at the time, but we weren't running into massive IEDs all the time. I liked that we were hitting the Taliban where they thought they were safe and on our terms. And also being Marines, again, bread and butter is yomping everywhere, which we did a lot of, and no one came off the yomps. We all completed them and smashed the Taliban at the end of them. So as I said before, a lot of the fighting we did was very not to say it was World War II, because nothing was intense as that, but we had armor. It was muddy, it was grim. We were like moving behind them and using them as they were in World War II. It was, having read all the books and seen the films, I felt very satisfied at the end of it. And I got.
Do you feel like it was a proper commando tour then? They were like the kind of turn up, smash fuck about people, leave.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it really was. Because we had the freedom of movement at that stage of the whole Afghan war. We still had freedom of movement, and we could hit them on our own terms, use our initiative, and do all that. And obviously later tours, they kind of had their hands tied up a little bit more, and a lot more red tape, what you can and can't do. I mean, everyone acted within the rules of engagement anyway. I didn't see anything untoward, outside of the legalities, if anything. But we got to hit them, and obviously they didn't like it. So, yeah.
What about lasting effects from that tour? Did the way that Afghanistan come to an end? Like, how did you feel about that? And is there anything else that you kind of feel like looking back on that you kind of want to speak about?
When it ended, it was very sudden. And it did piss me off really, because obviously, so it's the same as I suppose like the Americans in Vietnam as well. Militarily, we win. We win all the fights. We were smashing them. But again, you get certain rules of engagement, which are there for a reason, obviously. But you wish it was a bit more gloves are off with the Taliban and hit them a little bit harder. But as I'm a history lover, as a youth, so you sort of know throughout history, all these insurgents have to do is just last. They've just got to hang around until we eventually leave and lose, move out of there, usually politically. I don't want to go into politics too much. But that's what they got to do, and that's exactly what they did. They just hung around, waited for us to leave. They knew we were going to leave eventually, especially when we actually gave them a date of like, we're leaving at this point. So they went, all right then, no point fighting. We'll just wait around, rebuild, regroup. As soon as we leave, straight in again, as we saw. So I felt sorry for the people of Afghan. I think some of the areas we occupy, they had a bit of a sense of, bit of life, and I'm not getting smashed by Taliban all the time. But then as soon as they sweep in again, it's just back to square one. So you think, what was that 20 years for, really? Especially with the casualties we've lost. And I've had friends, colleagues, I've had people since take their own lives as well, and just think, for what? Again, not to get political about it, but it does leave a bit of a sour taste.
I've got one more question for you, mate. But before we get to that, like the floor's yours. Anything you want to say about your time in the Royal Marine Commandos or your time in Afghanistan?
No, I mean, it's quite a short career, really. I did just short of 5 years. 2 of them's been training. I mean, went to Iraq, but I'm boring on that. It wasn't really much going on. It went 4 months, force protection. So I did Christmas in Afghan, next Christmas in Iraq. Yeah, nothing, just escorting officers about. They were rebuilding Qazar port, so just, yeah, going around the green lid looking Gucci with a mini-me most of that tour. So yeah, that was pretty basic. Did the sniper selection in between both tours, which, yeah, so like a week-long selection course, and out at the end of it, out of 25 of us that started, 5 of us passed, but then, yeah, a little bit bitter as well about that, because the way they did it is the 2 senior Marines out of the 5 that passed, they gave the next 2 spots on the next course to them. Rightly so, even they're senior Marines, they've been waiting around pretty longer. But rather than letting the other 3 of us know that you'd passed officially, they didn't tell us. It was my Corporal Chris, he was on the course, he was one of the instructors. He told me later on that it was a pass. So what they didn't want is us knowing we passed and then not keeping up with the skills and drills for the next, however long it takes. I think they only do like 2 or 3 courses a year. So they didn't want us getting loaded onto a course later on, but having lost, all our skills and stuff like that, which is, I thought, fair enough. But I think had I hopefully passed the sniper course, just because you pass selection doesn't mean you're going to pass the course, because it is nails. If I'd gone on it and passed, I probably wouldn't have left when I did. I would have wanted to do another tour about the sniper this time. So yeah, no, I was still happy with, I got a good Afghan tour. If it was like a shit one, like some of the Lima Company's earlier ones where there's not much going on, I probably would have, not enjoyed it as much. But I'm glad I got to kind of do what I wanted to do and, come out at the end of it. Luckily unscathed, and I'm mentally perfectly fine. I'm not, waking up at night with anything. I've always been open with my friends and family, like talking about stuff. And my wife, she doesn't really want to hear too much about it. So I don't really talk about it too much with her. Not the bad stuff anyway. But no, I've always been open. Openly talk. I spoke to my kids about it as well. Again, nothing too gruesome. But I just think sometimes, if you bottle things up, that's when it affects you too much. So it's always good to just reach out to anyone that served, your mates, because chances are some of them probably going through the same thoughts, still trying to process things themselves as well. So, yeah. But even when I was in the Marines, I used to do, some veterans probably all Serbian going to roll their eyes, but I used to do airsoft as well, the BB gun stuff, but more, better stuff. So I used to, I was doing that when I was serving. I had all my weapons and stuff back at the accommodation at Big League, and I had like a little airsoft claymore I used to rig on people's doors with a tripwire. So they're opening the door for a piss in the night and you got a fucking claymore going off at 200 BPs. So you used to see him in the morning because the door's open inwards. So I put the tripwire the claymore facing the door with a tripwire. So as soon as they open the door, triggers the tripwire, off it goes. And only like leg level. But you'd see him in the morning waving their broom about, trying to trip anything. So I used to have all that. But it was quite a good, I don't know, doing airsoft since I left the Marines. I don't do it anymore. I haven't done it for 3 or 4 years now. But it was like a decompression. It helped me still kind of kit up, run around, shoot people in the face, but, legally and safely. So yeah, no, I got my kicks out of that. I used to do like military simulations, and the whole term civvies pay thousands for this. They really do. So some of these civvies are actually buying like night vision goggles, like proper, military grade. Don't know how they get them, but they're spending thousands on this stuff. So I enjoyed it though. I used to like whack a ghillie suit on and just lay in the grass somewhere. I had people like kneeling on me, laying down next to me, and you're just like whispering at them like, hello. Scared the shit out of them. Went to Sweden, one game. We were up against the Swedes, who are a mad bunch. But it was like -15, deep snow. But that company I was working with were run by other former bootnecks, and we had ex-SAS bloke with us as well. So it is we keep it realistic, and it was just a good laugh. It was good to get back with people with the same mentality, and I don't really use the word brotherhood much, but it is kind of thing. So it was good, decompression for me to do. But again, I just don't have time for any more the desire, so I kind of left that behind now. But yeah, also some civvies take it way too seriously. They all dress up like SEAL Team 6, but some of them are like fat as fuck. So, and they're, what did it for me, there was one bloke, I won't name him, he's a dick. He once said, "Oh, I would have survived Afghan." You're like, right, cool, you're better than everyone else that died then, are you? So that really did piss me off. So I'm kind of glad to be away from all that kind of side of things, really. But yeah, I know I went off in a tangent there, but yeah, just want to get that one across.
Yeah. Now, mate, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's like a lot of things is it's like team sport, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah.
I was going to say it sounds like good fitness too, but then you mentioned the fat blokes. Maybe not.
It was, yeah. I mean, some of us, we used to have plate carriers, but actually put weighted plates in there just to, I don't know, shits and giggles, really. And it's also quite funny when you pass it over to someone, go, "Here, hold that," and they're like, "What the fuck?" As you're like bolting over fences. But it was mental. We used to have like, some people bring like armoured vehicles. I think it was like a ferret vehicle, and they converted it to actually fire BVs. So we were in a it's ridiculous. We were in a double-decker bus once, and one of them rocked up next to us. We thought, he's not going to get an elevation on us. Next thing you know, turret turns, gun goes up. It's like proper Saving Private Ryan. I mean, like, fuck. Got to hit the deck. BB's flying in. You can get, there's some Gucci stuff. You can get airsoft underslung grenade launchers that actually do fire a grenade that will impact. So you're firing them off. We used to have like a tube we uses the mortar, put a pyrotechnic down it goes flying off. But I was using it as like a shoulder launcher, firing it at people. So, honestly, it's mad the stuff you can do. But yeah, just left it behind a little bit.
If you're one of those airsofters with armored vehicles and too much money and you'd like to sponsor the podcast, please do get in touch. Mate, you've given up your evening to share your stories. Really, really appreciate it, mate. Thanks so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to have you. Final question: would you do it all again?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I still remember some of the shit times, but yeah, no. But I'd love to do it with a mentality. And you know, when I was in, I was quite immature. I know that now, looking back. But I'd rather do it as what I know now. But yeah, no, it was good, and you know, made some great mates out of it, and yeah, got to go kick some ass in war, really. So yeah, I would. But again, got a family now as well, so should probably say no. Really, if I get my ass kicked. But yeah, I would.